put a message to Dr. Rahimi through WhatsApp so that he will join very soon. Yes.
Hi, how are you?
Right. Yeah, he has joined.
He has joined.
Hey. I was basically muted by the organizer, but I could not unmute myself.
So should we start or we should wait for Dr. Ravi?
Am I audible?
Yeah, Dr. Rahimi, you are audible and looking smart.
Always smart.
Yeah.
Shravan, I think let's start, Shravan.
Yeah.
Okay. So over to Dr. Malvika. Can you proceed?
Thank you, Dr. Professor Abbasian. My friend is also an expert in the field of assessment.
Okay.
Very significant figure in assessment studies. Dr.
Dear Ali, how are you? Dear Ali, thank you very much.
Good.
How are you? Glad meeting you here and all of the experts here.
Sure.
I'm honored. I'm honored.
Sure. That's a great honor, and that's a great opportunity to rub shoulders with the celebrities today.
That's great. That's great, Dr. Ali Rahimi. We'll leave it to the host and then we can continue the conversation.
Fair enough. I'm the fourth speaker. I think there are already 3 speakers before me.
Yes. We will begin so that everybody gets their share of time. Okay, we'll allow Dr. Malvika from Pillai Engineering College to make the, proceedings.
Amazing.
Dr. Malvika, please start.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to you all, and welcome to the roundtable discussion on assessment of learning, assessment for learning, and assessment as learning. The chairperson for this session today is Dr. S. Shankar Shiripurapu. So here I have the privilege of introducing Dr. Shankar. In his 38 years of teaching, Dr. Shankar worked as a lecturer, reader, head of the department, and also principal. He was the chairman, Board of Studies in English, Krishna University, member of Academic Senate, IQAC, member of various colleges, and resource person for several colleges. So here I welcome Dr. Shankar, and kindly, sir, please, I request you to chair the session.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. I just could not log in from my laptop with a video. So this is a temporary arrangement. Hope I'll be able to get into the laptop a little later. But thanks to ELTAI and Mohan Raj sir specifically for asking me to chair this session on a very interesting topic. One which is a little dearer to me in the sense I've been into the assessment of colleges, assessment of teaching and accreditation and so on and so forth. The outcome of education is known by the way a student or a teacher assesses the performance of academic activity in a college, in a classroom. But why should we assess? We assess students to enable to know how to advance the learning of the students a little further, and we assess to know their learning needs in relation to the curricular outcomes, and we use various methods to assess the performance of students. We wish to know their skills, what methods they are adopting to follow what the teacher has been saying. While assessment for learning and of learning are practiced by the teachers to know at a formative stage and a summative stage of assessment. Assessment as learning is student-centric in the sense it is left to the student to assess his own performance. Sometimes it is also done by peers. So in this connection, we have 4 distinguished persons. One from the old guard, Dr. Mukti Sanyal, former principal of Bharati College, University of Delhi. She is associated with the erstwhile CPhil, now FLU, and she's a best lecturer awardee of Delhi University, and she has been associated with TESOL and several other universities, including Indira Gandhi National Open University. And she has been supporting work in English language and literature teaching, social work, and mental health. And you can't get hold of her, you see, even after the college hours, because she is online, imparting skills and teaching classes to students. I welcome you, Dr. Mukti Sanyal. Kindly
Thank you, sir.
go ahead with your presentation. Over to Dr. Mukti Sanyal.
Sure. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And I hope I'm audible and visible
Yes,
to everyone.
yes, madam. Yes,
Yeah,
madam.
thank you. Thank you. First of all, I think I must start by thanking ELTAI India for inviting me for this roundtable debate and discussion. I'm really honored. And I also remember, the kind of situation in which ELTAI India ran its conference last year. Shravan from Amity, sort of was conducting it. And I remember I was in the middle of a COVID infection, a mild COVID infection. And yet, I managed to, contribute in whatever way possible to the discussion last year. And of course, this year we are very, very fortunate that the situation is much better in Delhi and all over the world. And of course, I was able to attend the morning part of the morning session, and I found it absolutely exciting. And I'm really humbled by the fact that I've been invited, and I'm able to contribute. I must also thank Shankar, who has very sort of taken good care that we are spot on with what we have to say and what we have to do. And we have been in conversation the last few days. And I'm very, very happy that, Dr. Mohan Raj has been able to sort of put me on to this August gathering. So I will be sort of, talking over two short sessions. And I want to begin by the topic, the subtopic that I have picked on is assessment as learning. I picked on it primarily because I think it allows me to kind of analyze what it has taken for me as a learner to evolve into a lifelong learner. Because, it might surprise many. I began as a very poor learner. And of course, there are several reasons for that, but we mightn't get into it right now. So I thought that, given the fact that this is a post-lunch session, I should make it anecdotal in terms of analyzing my own learning trajectory and kind of see what role assessment has had in this. So, as I said before, that I began with being a very poor learner and someone who was pretty much at the bottom of the class at school. And, so I remember one of my teachers had kind of said, let me see how you reach class 11th, which was the school leaving session when I was a student. So I was that bad. So, what has it, what are the things that have come in to play to make me, develop from that kind of a state where possibly I really didn't know enough Hindi, I didn't know enough maths, physics and chemistry went clear over my head, and obviously I must have done better as I went along to have reached the kind of sort of position of success, or whatever you will call a principalship is. So now, I would like to start off by saying that the first point for me is that learning involves assessment, which in turn includes various factors. For example, possibly the first is the system of formal assessment prevalent in your school, university, or the certificate you're taking, whatever it is. That system is very important. And of course, I think the collective effort of the work in assessment and evaluation that we have been doing over the decades, over the years in our country, is to make the formal assessment and evaluation system as sensitive to the learning system. So obviously there has been a consistent effort from time to time through different measures to make these two very important aspects of learning, which is assessment and learning, move hand in hand so that one supports the other. So I would say that the formal system is very important, but that is not the only thing. For example, more important to me is the extent to which the teachers, tutors, parents, who are in a large measure responsible to have put us into that system, perceive what the system requires from you as a learner to be successful in it. And I think over here, things have really gone wrong in our country. I think a large body of teachers and a large body of even parents are concerned with the final outcome. Result kya hua? Class mein first aaye ho ya nahi? Are you, first in the class? Have you got the highest mark? That seems to be the obsession with parents. And obviously parents are the ones who are, paying money to the schools, and they might take your child off from one school and put the child into another, where supposedly the results are better. So the school system also begins to gear towards the final outcome. And this I find as a terrible mistake. And this is something that we really need to work on. You can make the formal system as good as you wish. And I have been party to this within the school system whenever I was invited to do so in Delhi. And in the college system, through the years of approximately 30 years that I have been teaching, I have been involved as a paper setter, as a paper evaluator, as a materials production person, and of course, as a teacher on the ground. So you might, I think at the end, people like all of us, teachers and all of us, we need to obviously participate within the system in whatever roles we are invited to. And we need to make the system more sensitive. But there is this other very large aspect that I sort of pointed at, which is how are the teachers on the ground actually looking at the learning process? Are they merely concerned with, question 1 will be this, and this is the type of answer you have to write. You will get your 1 mark if you do this. If you don't do this, you will not get your mark. Does should that be the approach? Obviously, all of us, I think, are agreed that that should not be. But that is often the way teachers teach in the class. So they're not really, to my mind, they are teaching students to crack the exam. They are not gearing the teaching to the learning process. And obviously the learning process, especially when we come to language learning as a learning process, it is much more complicated. And somehow I'm not terribly impressed or taken up by this, outcome approach. You keep formulating outcome over outcome, outcome over outcome. You are going to waste a lot of man hours writing outcome 1 to 100, but none of those outcomes might be achieved in a very, in a sensible kind of way, to make you confident, to make you articulate, to make you think on your feet. Because in the final analysis, that is what you are judged for, How good are you at decision making? How good are you at maneuvering a certain kind of, heated argument into an amicable discussion? How well are you going to be, are you able to articulate what you wish to say? But those things cannot be necessarily captured in outcomes. And even if you put those outcomes, it's not going to really happen within this formal system. Then coming to my third point, we also need to, within this, I think it's very important to understand the extent to which your peers, meaning your classmates, support you through the assessment process. Because often the teaching necessarily does not come down from the teacher to every student. It is often the peers who are saying, "Hare, ye wrong hai, isko na aise karna hai." This is the way you go about it. So peer teaching again becomes very.
Madam, shall we stop at that? And
no, my last point, and I'll
stop
it quickly. Just 1 minute. And
Yeah.
finally, I feel it is the extent to which you yourself as a learner is committed to the learning process. Thank you. I'll stop at this.
Thank you so much. Now it's over to Dr. Sujata Priyadarshini. She is going to touch upon the topic assessment as learning, a discussion on the present scenario. Over to Dr. Sujata.
Thank you, sir. Let me first thank ELTAI for inviting me to this August gathering and listen to our viewpoints. What I'm going to talk is more my exploration in this area. What I have been seeing as a teacher for past 18 years I've been teaching, and the students and teachers, their comments as created. As I've been exploring this topic for past few, years, Can I share my screen? I thought I'll share my PowerPoint.
Please, madam.
You have disabled, the host has disabled the participant skills.
Nudalini, madam, is he somebody?
Or should I go ahead?
No.
Just a second.
Anita, madam, is there to help you.
Okay. Or Anita, should I go ahead? Let me not wait.
Just a second. We'll make you co-host. 1 second.
Okay.
Later, Ravi Narayan will also.
He also needs present.
Like to.
Malvika ma'am, can you just make Sujata ma'am as co-host?
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll try. Yeah.
Please do that.
Okay. Okay, let me start off with this. Let them make the co-host thing. Okay, what started off me on this particular topic was there were certain issues which happened. I have seen students, let's say more than students, the young children, very inquisitive, very interested in knowing new things, always asking why, become quite model child after they go to the schools. I'm seeing that with my nephews and all. So what is happening that changes them from a very inquisitive, very chatty and a questioning kid to a quiet as a mouse and sitting and doing a homework in a corner of a house. That is, I've always wondered, is that quote which says education spoiled me, is it really true? And there was another one incident which happened a few months back. I was taking part in a discussion in a social media audio forum where the topic was education system of India today. Now that interested me as a teacher because I wanted to know who are the participants, what are they saying about the topic. And to my surprise, I noticed it was hosted by a student who has just finished his 12th. He had hosted the discussion and there were people who were participating, there were some teachers, parents like that. And many students were complaining about two major things. One, teachers, they were blaming everything on teachers. In fact, they were venting it out on teachers. And two, they were blaming it on the system. In fact, they were magnanimous enough to accept teachers are also sometimes, they don't have a choice because they're part of the system. But one solution given by a parent was, I have taken out my children from the school and I'm doing homeschooling. If you see today's trend is, a lot of teachers are, after this pandemic situation, they are talking about the advantages of homeschooling. I don't think it's a solution. So this was—
You can screen share now. You can screen share now.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Anita. Okay, can you see this?
Yes, we can see.
Go ahead, madam.
Yeah. Okay, this is the discussion really made me think like about the students' angst about the system. It really came to. And there was another one video I saw in which they said, I think there is someone audio, you have to mute someone. Okay, thank you. There was a video which says there were more than 10,000 suicides for the younger children. And in that about 4,000 was due to the examination, performance in the examination. So most of this, the problem associated with this three particular incident related to school and exams particularly. In fact, I remember yesterday my nephew gave me his class link and said, you come and watch how my teacher is torturing me. He's studying in 3rd standard. The teacher asking question is a torture, I believe. I don't know, something happens when the exam test, some inhibition happens to the child. So that made me think, where is the problem? Examination. Okay, if examination is the problem, so these gave rise to the questions. There are a lot of advancements happening in our society, even in our teaching methods. But why is it not being reflected in our, let's say, it impacts our education properly? And what is the role of or examination or assessment? We have different names, nomenclature here. But what is the role of it today? Do we need assessments at all to test our learning? How can we do it otherwise? So when I try to find answers for this, advancement, I think one of my students did a research on that. There were a lot of new innovations they are bringing out in the syllabus design or curriculum design. Multimodal material are being given. Like in Tamil Nadu, we have QR code in our state textbooks. Students are supposed to use QR codes. They can access materials through QR codes. But all these innovations are happening. And still when my student went to the class to see, we are going back to the same old lecture method, writing answers on the board, memorizing answer and writing in the exam. This was what was happening. So what was the reason that change was not happening? One was that testing didn't change. The methods and materials, there are a lot of revisions happened, but testing remains the same. We are still testing the content. And teachers' assumption, that was one other thing we found. Teachers always felt, no, our students will find it very difficult. Let me give a ready-made answer. Our teachers cannot do group activity. Our students cannot do group activities. They will not find it easy. So that assumptions of teachers was also a block, I would say. Coming to the next one, like role of examinations today. One sec. Let's say there are different, now we ourselves are discussing about assessment of learning, which is more of a summative assessment, or assessment for learning, which is a formative assessment, or let's say summative assessment is more of a text-based. I don't know whether this is true. One older gentleman, and I think in an academic conference, he told earlier days, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm just telling it from the hearsay. He said graduation, they used to test for all the 3 years. And then it was reduced to annual, and now it has become semester. He says the quality has been diluted. He's not even talking about, it's not about memory-based exam, that, how you remember things. That is what he was trying to say. or even the formative assessment, if you look at it, I've been raising this in every conference. The formative assessment given in schools or colleges, the teachers, are they being given training in how to give those assessments, how to give those projects, and projects to whom are they giving? Are they giving it to students or the parents? I have seen my nephew buying a project from Richie Street, 2,000 rupees project. He brought it and it was displayed in the school. And teachers very well know that wouldn't have been done by a student. It had too sophisticated setting, but they didn't bother. Projects are supposed to be for the student. That was a formative assessment. The whole purpose got lost. And it was also not properly utilized. It is basically for doing it for the sake. Like even in colleges, I'm teaching at college. So at tertiary level, when they do this kind of formative assessment, the focus is only, let me finish it off. You're giving a speaking presentation skills or something, they come and memorize and they just play it. We don't even know whether they're actually understanding the topic or not. So it is not even effectively integrated. And now, thanks to pandemic, now we have online assessments. And the quality of it, that is why we are having descriptive mode, MCQ mode, and now we are having re-exams in our universities and all. And another one thing in this assessment is that fear of exams. All of us, most of us have, I won't say all of us, most of us have. Even teachers, sometimes when we attend an FTP, we are going to ask questions. Immediately there is this panic going on. That fear of exam also sometimes becomes an affective factor for the performance. So do we need, that comes to the next question. Do we need assessments? Can't we do without assessment? I really was exploring this, asking my foreign students, some students who are in the foreign countries, to check out what is the process there. But in all that, there was one audit course, which we have audit courses, which doesn't need exams. But you know, one response I got from the student was, yes, we want exams. That gives a sense of closure. They wanted exam to see how they have learned the subject. That was so surprising. As a teacher, I would have preferred no exam, because that interest in learning will be there. I don't have to correct the papers, but no, students are the ones who said they wanted exams. So that was an interesting learning for me. And as a teacher, I also would like to know whether they understood or not as an exam and a written exam. It could be in a formative assessment. So some kind of assessment should be, and it can be used as a learning tool so that I can go back and revise my course or evaluate my course. And it also help in expanding the learning for students. So that is the reason I thought assessment instead of learning or for learning, as learning is more appropriate. But when you talk about assessment as learning, these are some of the points I gathered. It is seen as where learners take an active role, and it is supposed to encourage the metacognitive skills of the students. And it is giving that sense of responsibility to the students. In fact, when digital assessment came, we had a wider choice of testing also. Apart from just testing what they learned in the class, it also teaches other soft skills like critical thinking, problem solving skills, setting and goal setting, they evaluating their own progress. So the learning is not restricted to that clearing that exam alone. They are supposed to become a lifelong learners. As Dr. Mukti was mentioning about the importance of the peer support. So that self and peer assessment also plays a very important role in assessment as learning. So, but this leads to the point, like what I want to insist is assessment literacy. For assessment as learning to succeed, we need to have that assessment literacy. This is, I think a lot of people have been exploring in this area now. What do I mean by assessment literacy is the definition. This I got it from another one text. Basically, it is like, here I'm talking, the first one is more of a teacher's point of view. How to assess what students know and can do and interpret the result. You know, you have a very good knowledge about what am I testing, why am I testing, how am I testing. But this testing, assessment literacy, I would say should not limit only to the teacher. Students also should have an awareness of it. Then only they will also be familiar what is this testing is all about. And if it is executed properly, this formative assessment can actually inculcate assessment literacy. My only problem is it is not being executed properly. Maybe there are some schools. I would not give a blanket statement saying no one is doing it. I have seen some schools doing a wonderful job of it, but it is not uniform. Even in
Dr. Sujata, 1 or 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm finding that. Okay, so this is the quote by the Dr. Price, who says, what is assessment literacy? It is supposed to be an association between assessment and learning, knowledge about reliability and validity. These things teachers should know, and even students should be familiar with the different technique, assessment technique and method, what criteria is being followed when I'm being evaluated for my essay, and how the feedback is given, what kind of feedback is given. So based on it, the peer and self-evaluation, I have done it in my class. I found students were more strict teachers than the teachers themselves. And conscious reflection is the one major part of this assessment literacy class. And that's what it starts with formative assessment. This was Price, Dylan Williams' effective assessment practices, 7th thing he said. I don't want to expand on that. If you have to use this in the class, we need to have these items in this: descriptive feedback, peer feedback, self-assessment, collaborative, a lot of tasks and activities to show that students learning. So what we can do in future is make sure first the teachers have the assessment literacy. Teachers should have, and I'm sorry to say all teachers don't have, and utilize not just assessment of learning or for learning, use whichever works well with your students at different parts of the session.
Thank you.
And the change in mindset, that is one thing I really want to insist on. Mindset is a major problem for the obstacle. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You see, you try to bring so many points. Shortage of time. I think, you see, if you have some more time, you see, at the end, perhaps you can add a couple of points. Now it is over to the young Dr. Narayan. Ravi Narayan will be speaking about writing skills, and I wish to introduce him briefly. He's a professor and academic head of the Regional Institute of English, South India in Bangalore, and he has been a teacher trainer, and he has an MA in TESOL from the University of Lancaster, UK. He has chaired several sessions and a writer of textbooks. He was the lead coordinator for the British Council India's Action Research Mentoring Scheme in 2019-20 as cohort. A large number of teachers and mentors have been associated with him in this research project. His book on Learn English, Teach English was published by OUP, Oxford University Press of India, and very young and dynamic and eager to speak. We wish to be enlightened by Dr. Ravi Narayan. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah, thank you so much. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You have about 12 minutes.
Thank you.
About 12 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
Starting at 2:35.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Shankar, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you, ELTAI, for the opportunity. I'll mainly focus on assessment for learning. I'm glad Dr. Sujata talked about assessment as learning. I'd like to continue the discussion and focus more on assessment for learning. And in her presentations, she talked about the features of assessment as learning, like involving learners in assessment and then giving them a feeling of ownership. This applies to assessment for learning as well. So I'll talk from my own experience of educating teachers at the Regional Institute of English, Bangalore. So generally, we train teachers for about 1 month. They attend in-service training programs for 1 month, and I talk about assessing writing skills. I try to develop teachers' writing skills in the first place, and then I also talk about teaching writing, assessing writing at the school level. I was actually with a group of primary school teachers. So these are all in-service teachers from 5-6 different South Indian states. So on the very first day of the training, I give them a task like this. I hope all of you can see the screen. So we have around 50 to 60 teachers in one cohort. So the first writing task given generally is this. They'll have to interview their co-participants. Each of the teacher trainees has to interview their co-participants, then collect necessary information, like, for example, name, address, place of work, family, friends, like, etc. And they'll have to write a short description in about 100 to 120 words. They'll have to write a short paragraph introducing their co-participant. And this is what one of the teachers wrote. I'd just like to read it out for all of you in case the font is too small for you all to read. This is draft 1 of a particular teacher trainee. And she writes like this. I met my co-learner on 2/7/2021. I hope all of you can read that, or should I read it aloud? For you?
Okay, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I met my co-learner on 2/7/2021. I talked with her. I collected some information. That person's name is P.S. Mahalakshmi, belongs to Coimbatore district in Tamil Nadu. She works in an elementary school at Pommananpalayam. Her husband, Loganathan, is doing business in Erode. She has only one son whose name is Ilango. She's a devotee of Saint Ilango. So she named her son Ilango. Mrs. Shankari is her close friend who is working with her. Both of them had no secrets. She likes to sing songs. Her voice is very sweet. Always she likes to hum songs. She doesn't like to cheat others, as well as she hates cheating also. Her lovely voice is her strength, and she is very pleasing and friendly to speak. She is MA Literature and passed all the typewriting exams. She sent articles to magazines also. Her ambition is to become a member in Tamil Nadu ministry. So this is what the teacher wrote on the first day on the second day, in fact. First day they interviewed their co-participants, brainstorming and then making notes and then preparing a first draft. Right. Then I give them a couple of days to go through their draft, make revisions. And if you look at draft 2, okay. So I want you all to compare draft 1 with draft 2 and tell me what are the changes made in the second draft. Is there any revision in the first place? If so, what are the revisions made? And what was the process like? How do you think the teacher trainee was able to revise her draft? You can keep thinking about this. What was teacher trainee's role as a writer? What was my role as a teacher educator? Right? You can think about these questions. So the second draft goes like this. My dear friend, I met my co-learner on 2/7/2021. I talked with her. I collected some interesting information. That person's name is P.S. Mahalakshmi, who belongs to Coimbatore district in Tamil Nadu. She works in an elementary school at Pommananpalayam. Yeah, just try to compare this with the previous draft, right? Yeah. So in the first draft, she's written, I collected some informations. That person's name is, look at the revised draft. I collected some interesting information. That person's, there is an apostrophe. She works in an elementary school at ... Her husband, Loganathan, is doing business in Erode. She has only one son whose name is Ilango. She's a devotee of Saint Ilango. So she named her son Ilango. Mrs. Shankari is her close friend who is working with her. Both of them keep no secrets. Yeah, look at the first draft. Yeah, so both of them had no secrets, and here both of them keep no secrets. She likes to sing songs because her voice is very sweet. She likes to hum songs always. She doesn't like to cheat others. Her lovely voice is her strength, and she's very pleasing and friendly to speak. She has qualified MA Literature and passed all the typewriting exams. She sends articles to magazines also. Her ambition is to become a member in Tamil Nadu ministry. I wish her all the best. So look at that and compare this, the second draft with the first draft. So what changes do you see? Can anybody comment on this? So what was the writing process like? What revisions were? Yes, yes.
There is a comment in the chat box from Saroja Ganapati.
Okay.
Yeah, shall I read it out for you?
Yes, sir. Please read it out, sir. Yes.
Besides corrections in grammar, she's also commenting on the information and thus fleshing out the information, giving better sense of the person.
Great. Exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. And there is one SP. I do not know what SP stands for. In the first draft, she did not make a casual connection between singing songs and the sweetness of the voice.
True. Yeah, that's right. Good observation. Yes. Any other points? Yes.
Better organization of information. Mohan Raj sir was saying.
Absolutely.
And appropriate verbs. Somebody, I think Hemangi madam was saying.
Excellent. Very good observation. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So let me continue. Yes.
Right.
So in draft one, she's written there. Yeah, there is in draft one, there is an abrupt ending. There is no title. And then if you look at the sentence construction, I can just quote some examples from the first draft. She doesn't like to cheat others as well as she hates cheating also. Both of them had no secrets. I collect, yeah. So you know this. She has only one son whose, look at that, whose name is, she sends articles to magazines. All right, first draft. Look at.
I would like to add, you see, there is one
Yes.
comment by Nasina.
Yeah.
There is coherence now. Coherence in the second draft.
Absolutely. True. Absolutely.
And
yes.
there is
Yes.
Aravindan who says draft one is showing the influence of L1.
Yeah.
Mother
All
tongue
right.
influence.
Okay, right. Yes, you may be right. So, and someone's audio is disturbing. Can you please mute your audio? Yes. So if you look at the revised draft, you will see there is a concluding line. I wish her all the best. And then she's added a title, My Dear Friend. Can you please mute your microphone? I don't know whose mic is on.
Anita, madam, can anyone help?
Yes, sir. I'm just checking, sir. I'm just checking.
Yeah. Right. And then, yeah. She has edited her language. All right. She was able to analyze her mistakes and try to correct. She's trying to correct them. For example, she doesn't like to cheat others. Both of them keep no secrets. Simple present tense. I collected some interesting information. She has only one son whose name is. She sends articles to magazines. All right. So you will see revisions made at different levels. She has, audio is disturbing. Yeah. She has revised her content, enriched. Right. Okay. So there is revision of content, and there is actually, she's able to write more coherently in the second draft, and then she's able to edit her language, use better marks of punctuation as well. So if you compare drafts 1 and 2, for example, again, some more examples. That person's name, I don't need to elaborate on this. So you will see some growth in her writing. Okay, this is the growth which you can see in their writing. So revision of the content by adding a title, by adding a concluding line, and then deleting irrelevant details. And of course, the paragraph is more cohesive and coherent now. And then she's used appropriate tense forms in the second draft, appropriate word forms, and appropriate word order, right? And then look at the choice of words. She's used different conjunctions. She was able to connect different parts of the sentence. All right, so there is improvement in the use of vocabulary as well. So you see, this is. So what do you think was my role as a teacher educator? One is self-assessment. All right, the teacher trainee has to analyze her own script and see what is the scope for improvement. And then it's very important to carry out peer assessment. The draft was exchanged with the peer group, and then during peer assessment, they gave some suggestions for improvement. And then the teacher educator went through all the individual drafts. If there are 60 teacher trainees in the group, I'll go through all the 60 drafts personally, individually. I'll go through, give them feedback, suggestions for improvement. Otherwise, it's very difficult to see their growth in writing.
Okay, take 2 more minutes.
Or 2 more minutes. All right. So yes. So you can apply the same logic to speaking as well. I wanted to give a few examples how speaking can also be assessed by repeating the same task. All right. So in the first week of the training program, we give them a speaking task, record it. And the same task is given with some variations in the second week. And we record it. We compare both the recordings and see the improvement. Teachers themselves can see what is the growth, what is the improvement made. So when you repeat a task, for example, okay, so this is what Martin Beigett actually says. I'm talking about speaking now. He says, The second performance, there is significant improvement. And this is systematic repetition, where teachers activate and reactivate the same set of cognitive processes. So it's called fluency in the brain. It's not mindless rote memorization. They plan, they assemble, repeat in a genuinely communicative context. It's not repetition at the level of words, not at the level of sentences even. And it's not like drilling. They're repeating the cognitive processes, all right? Adding relevant details and then editing, which happens at the cognitive level. And Martin Weigate in 2018, he says, for example, he talks about task input, planning, rehearsal. Okay, so performance 1 is planning, rehearsing, and then they reflect, they get feedback, and then you repeat. That is performance 2, 3, 4. So you change one variable, same task, but make some variations. So, so they revise the text after a month, and they see the growth in their speaking or writing. So this is called assessment for learning. I mean, you are able to capture small qualitative gains. It may not be a quantum jump in their writing or speaking, but it's very difficult to capture small qualitative gains in their writing or speaking. So assessment is continuous and is formative in nature. It helps in improving their learning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
If you have time, you can add a little after the second round of Mukti Sanjal. Now I'll go to Professor Ali Rahimi.
Thank you so much.
He's waiting, you see. Thank you. Now, Professor Ali Rahimi, an international personality, he is also associated with a South Indian university, WIT University, which got A++ recently. In
Sir, it is VIT, sir, not WIT. It is VIT.
Okay, go ahead.
Vellore Institute of Technology.
Vellore Institute of Technology.
Yes.
I was also associated in the process.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, he was associated with several international universities. Professor Rahimi is associated with Bangkok University, and he has published several books, and almost half a dozen papers are published by him every year. Scopus quality papers, and he has a large student base who eagerly follow him in every task he takes up. And he was also inquiring, you see, if his students can also join in this presentation. I said, go ahead. And we are eagerly waiting to listen to what Professor Rahimi speaks about with reference to his research background. Welcome, Professor Rahimi.
Thank you so much for your very...
You have about 13 minutes also.
Okay, very encouraging presentation and introduction indeed, Dr. Shankar. I really appreciate it. But we are at the pressure of time. I've got to first thank the other speakers for enlightening, inspirational talks. But my approach is a bit different, because I believe I've got to supply the audience with the current theoretical considerations in language testing, and also the future directions, specifically with regards to the idea of online teaching, online learning, and online assessment. So my talk basically concentrates on it must be necessarily relevant to the topic, that is testing as learning for learning, basically. But my talk is, as the title signifies, deals with artificial intelligence as the probably most influential theory of human education currently, and for the future of human beings, specifically and more and specifically on assessment practices. So I talk about what I take it for granted that the audience has got necessary background information about artificial intelligence. So I give a brief overview, and then I proceed to the next section, that is the diagnostic model, the diagnostic model of teaching. basically, and I end with some topics for inquiry. So, as you know, artificial intelligence talks about replacement of human beings. What we have in augmented realities and whatever related to artificial intelligence is basically the fulcrum of the whole discussion is the replacement of machines. Machines replacing human beings for adopting tasks and administering tasks. And this process is called, like, I give you some examples, like machine translation, like computer systems and applications of self-driving cars. All of these are instances of simulation of human intelligence. A process, and the process will be taken by the machines for the purpose of effectiveness and speed. These artificial intelligence functions are taken into consideration. So I try to give some topics and some areas to the audience, and they can work on them for their thesis, for their dissertation, and for the publication of papers. So that's the reason why this is a very complicated, very sophisticated, and excruciatingly systematically scientific topic. So I cannot talk anything like gibberish. Everything must be very scientifically oriented, and I have to go on my guards. That's a pitfall, and I'm walking the tightrope of scientificity. Hence, I have to mince words very, very carefully. So, what are the advantages of artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence gives us a good and detail-oriented analysis of information. It's reduced time for data-heavy tasks. It produces consistent results, and it employs the virtual agents. So these are the fundamental advantages of the application of artificial intelligence. And now I proceed to some softwares. These are softwares that you could apply for analysis of data through artificial intelligence. The softwares are M+, for formative assessment, fast test platform, FAST, F-A-S-T, fast test platform for CDMs, cognitive diagnostic models. So see, I call it from now on, hereafter, I call it CDMs, means cognitive diagnostic models. And basically the big names are Jonathan Templin and Nathal Thompson. So what is CDM, cognitive diagnostic model? You know, I always believe that we need to have an organized mind, and to see, you know, the big categories, the small categories, the examples, the premises, the conclusions, and this is an organized, scientifically, philosophically organized mind. For this particular topic also, I give you the perspective of the gestalt, or the big picture. The picture is item response theories that are now old versus this CDMs, or cognitive diagnostic modeling. So this is the dichotomous categorization. So what is CDM? It provides information about the student's mastery status of different tasks, a set of different interrelated separate attributes. So the advantage of this CDM, or cognitive diagnostic modeling, is that as a tester, you are able to basically analyze and assess a set of different cognitive attributes of the students at the same time. So you see the speed and the effectiveness is absolutely fabulous indeed. So this is why we call cognitive or CDM, cognitive diagnostic model, has primary primacy over the old item response theory ideas and perspectives. Yeah, I also like to give you the steps by which you are able, as a tester, you are able to administer this CDM. The step one is specify the skills and attributes for construct validation. That's step one. Specify the skills and attributes you are going to analyze. Step two, analysis of test items and showing skill by skill item relationship in a Q matrix. So then the step number two is analysis by Q matrix. Number three, step three is choose your relevant CDM model. There are different models by Rommelhart and the others. You have to choose the relevant model. And number four, the last stage is estimating the profiles of skill mastery for individual examiners based on actual test performance data using CDM. That is the latest, and that's practically what happens in the procedure. And then the last part of my talk, I'm going to supply you with some of the currently significant, globally dominant areas of assessment. What is actually going on with the pandemic literature, pandemic education, online assessment, digital assessment. We need to know what's going on. What will be the future directions. So what the first one is eye tracking systems through artificial intelligence. So most of the time, the students, the teachers have got difficulty tracking these students because the students basically open and join, and then they start dancing and singing in the background, or they go and have fun or eating or drinking and stuff. So it's quite unlikely for us to follow what they are doing. And through this eye tracking system, you can literally observe every single movement of the students. Even if the student is looking at the wall, you can see it. If the student is looking at the floor, you can see it. If the student is making some special noises anyways, you can basically see that. The second one here is a home edition of the TOEFL and IELTS. Nowadays, because of the pandemic, we've got these home editions, and these home editions are very technically, very scientifically sophisticated devices. Hence, the IELTS organizers and the testers are able to use this eye tracking systems to check for the movement of the students, and he or she is not able to cheat. The testee is not able to use to Google the information. He's literally under surveillance, absolute complete surveillance and control and dominance by the testers. Then the machine rater, artificial intelligence for designing, for scoring, and for administration of all tests. So augmented reality, artificial intelligence are basically used for all the stages of test production, administration, and also rating, because rating is also a laborious, very bulky, and notoriously problematic business. Hence, because some teachers prefer to die first and not read the paper, basically. So this is for those who do not like the idea. This rating is absolutely a very important, significant enterprise. So algorithms, specifically, different kinds of algorithms are used in digital humanities. So you see the pretty constant intimate relationship between mathematics and interdisciplinary areas, and the idea of digital humanities. Everything now is digital, including digital assessment and digital assignments. What happens at VIT? VIT has got a very sophisticated, advanced way of approaching the problem. So when we talk about the learner, learners learning as teaching as learning, you see, we have a continuous assessment, as Ravi, the other speakers talk about. Continuous assessment is CAT. FAT is as the final assessment test. So, and for every student, and we have coordinators, and the coordinators are not easygoing. They're very tough and rough and very strict and stringent observers. So they basically scrutinize every nook and cranny of all the questions. So that I as a teacher produce a question, but this is not the end of the story. That's the start of the whole sophisticated, lengthy process. So after that, every single question goes through the taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy, and what kind of course objective and what area of cognitive competency of the students are basically targeted through the particular relevant category of that question. So the coordinators, and that is intimately related to the topic of testing as learning. So testing by specification of Bloom, revised version of Bloom taxonomy, and the complexity of the cognitive task of every single question made. For instance, I made 21st question and I sent it to the coordinator. The coordinator wrote back, "This is rubbish, this is gibberish," and I was shocked. At first, I was arrogant and I said, I'm an expert in the field, and nobody can question my effectiveness and my accuracy. But the coordinator said, this is rubbish, and you have to specify all. She did not use the term rubbish anyways, well, similar, like gibberish or something. So I had to specify for every single item what Bloom's taxonomy level it is tailored to, and also what course objective it actually targets, and also what kind of students cognitive, metacognitive competency each individual question is basically targeting. That's a huge Herculean task. Well, it actually increases, it augments the learning and the teaching and testing process.
Professor Rahimi, would you mind concluding in a minute or two?
10 minutes? I've got 10 minutes?
You completed your 15 minutes. You completed okay. 14 minutes. You can use one more minute.
It means I have to put a sock in it. That's what you mean. Okay, I zip her.
2 minutes at best.
So, for 2 minutes, I would like to basically emphasize the idea of the significance of...
Then Mukti Sanyal madam would take over. Okay, go ahead. After you complete,
Can I have 5 minutes probably?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You have your say and then I can, yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Professor Mukti.
Yeah, no, it's not an issue, not an issue.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Just 5 minutes of...
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
Okay, go ahead.
It increases your resilience and patience. So basically, what I want to introduce a journal that is pretty relevant to this topic. That is the Journal of Sociocultural Theories and Language Learning. Journal of Sociocultural Theory, Journal of Sociocultural Theories and Language Learning. Very relevant to the, I got some information and some articles from this journal. Absolutely prestigious, informative journal. And also, I'd like also to talk about the idea of Vygotsky as related to our and dynamic assessment. As we talked to Dr. Shankar the other day, we had a discussion on dynamic assessment, and he was also very curious and inquisitive and very tough. He said, "That's general. I have to narrow it down." And I had a headache, and I said, "Okay, I will work on." I studied more to be able to answer Dr. Shankar's specifically question that was too difficult. But now at this stage, the dynamic assessment can be very intimately related to the idea of testing as learning and testing for learning, because Vygotsky's ideas of zona proximal development, mediation, and internalization of ideas are absolutely necessary. Because in dynamic assessment, we've got the idea that testing can be an instrument, a very effective instrument for teaching. So remove all the psychological impediment, remove all the stress, remove all the psychological barriers of students, so students are joyfully taking the test, and give them feedback, provide them with information. So based on Vygotsky's idea on dynamic assessment, mediation, also zona proximal development, and internalization. Internalization is absolutely insignificant, but most of the time this internalization does not take place due to sociopolitical, individual inhibitions. So also this approach could be basically relevant to the topic. So to recap, I talked about artificial intelligence. I talked about cognitive cognitive diagnostic models, and I also talked about some algorithms and the idea of dynamic assessment and its relevance to the idea of testing as learning. Thank you so much for your patience.
Okay, sorry, may I add a point?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. So who is this?
This is Abbasian, a friend of Dr. Rahimi. But
yes,
Yeah,
please.
yeah.
That's an honor to have you here, Dr. Abbasian. Please.
Okay.
He's an expert in the field. He's a very significant figure in the field.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rahimi. I really enjoyed the connecting CDM to artificial intelligence. But as you know, you have opened a new chapter, mainly some sort of deviation from the common sense of what we call it assessment, and combining the messages of positivism, but in a very complicated manner, beautifully. I mean, in the form of artificial intelligence in monitoring for even high-stake tests. That's beautiful. But what really adds to the concern of the implementation of assessment, you know, the terminologies are beautiful. Everybody here is, aligned with or willing, eager with the implementation of assessment. But what really adds to the difficulty is the concept of, you know, assessment for as. When we look at assessment in the realm of Vygotsky, basically what not bothers us, rather what comes to the mind is looking at the case not just from quantitative or psychometric perspectives. Rather, it doesn't mean that assessment ignores or puts aside psychometric principles, but in the definition of assessment, we are talking about multi-instrumentality or multi-modality. It means that integrating both or making peace between quantitative or psychometric dimensions, positivism on one hand, and socio-culturalism on the other hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. I need to interfere here a little. Thank you so much for supplementing to what Professor Rahimi has been saying. I think I have a second round. I owe a second
That's
round.
great.
To
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I can call you later after Professor Mukti Sanyal completes. Thank you, Professor Rahimi. It's over to Mukti Sanyal, madam.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you very much. I think I must, it has been a very, very enriching session, listening to all of you.
With limited time.
From different perspectives. And possibly, I think, you know, dividing whatever I had to say in two parts has in a way enabled me to kind of possibly comment, and perhaps it feeds very naturally into the question answer session which will follow. But what, I mean, I think, you know, when we are talking about formal assessment, because I think, you know, in the country and possibly in the world, the formal assessment methods and procedures are often looked at, and it is kind of modified, changed from time to time. And that effort is often to sensitize it to the learning. So obviously, I think I am with everyone that, you know, assessment as learning is central to the whole process. Though there are, of course, you know, accreditation issues which dominate assessment in a very big way. And I think what Dr. Rahimi kind of said went into the accreditation field. But I would like to kind of, you know, draw our attention, because let us say for most of us, we are people who are working within the field in the country where we have a large human factor to look into. You know, sort of, you cannot wish away your teachers. You cannot hand over everything to machines and therefore possibly create another loss of jobs in terms of the already well-trained personnel that we have in the country. So, my own take on this is that we cannot go away further and further away from the human aspect of both the learning process, the learner and the teacher, and all the human aspect of it, and move on to this kind of making it all very, very, possibly very, scientific, but moving away to this world of machines. Because at the end of the day, the machines or their programs or their logarithms have been created by human beings. So I rather keep it to this world until, of course, the human race is over for, until then, I rather look at a evaluation assessment process, which is looking at closely at the learning process. And in this, I feel what the kind of work that Ravi Narayan presented gives us a certain kind of clue to the kind of commitment it requires both from the learner and from the teacher. So let us say, as a tutor, he invested time in reading and correcting those 60 scripts that came to him. Now, that is an investment which, in a way, I think influences the learner as a learner. My teacher is investing in my learning process. And so therefore, it kind of very unconsciously motivates me to kind of invest in my own learning process. Because obviously, the improvements that happened in the script were at the level of the better spelling, better knowledge of capitalization, better knowledge of tenses, the concept of coherence, meaning, there has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the use of cohesive devices. So there were 5 different, let us say, micro levels of teaching that went into it. My own take as a teacher is this, that, you cannot prepare separate units to teach each of these separately, because it gets boring, and you need to integrate it. So this whole process of how does this integration happen in the context of when you are going to assess large number of students? There is a major problem in this. Finally, before I close, I want to also say that historically we began with, as somebody did correctly comment, that once upon a time a graduate took his final exam only in the 3rd year of his study. So the first year he just kept studying, second year he kept studying, and in the 3rd year he had sort of these major 3 hours or 4 hours papers where he wrote answers which kind of gave him his degree or didn't give him his degree or gave him his class. So that we moved, let us say, in NCERT and all that, to doing away with the essay type. So what did we say? Let us have answers in 50 words. Let us have answers in 100 words. Let us have answers in 1 sentence, 3 sentences. So in a way, we tried to accommodate the large numbers of test takers, and we tried to regularize it in a certain kind of way by moving away from, let us say, the essay type to these short answer types, 50 marks, etc., etc. And I think IELTS exam, to some extent, follow that kind of a model. From there, with the sort of the interventions of Dr. Taru and the others, let us say the UPSC, moved to what is now very popular, the multiple choice format. And in a way, Dr. Rahimi is kind of talking of that kind of format where everything can be machine corrected. But what effect is this happening in the learning system, in the learning process? I can tell you from my own personal experience that teachers are unwilling to write even 100-word answer on their own. They rather have a system where they can tick or they can cross.
I think Dr. Sanyal, you have one more
sentence. So the ability to compose is going away. So I am really concerned about it, and I really state my position very strongly. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderfully. You see, a person who is actually involved, directly involved, and who is bothered by the existing scenario, one from the old guard, Dr. Mukti Sanyal, she is bothered to see how things are going on, and with all what all Professor Ali Rahimi has pointed out of how machine learning is going to take over with not very positive effects. You see, that's a kind of indication of the things to come. If Professor Mohan Raj,
can I cut in?
Yeah, 1 minute. Our last minute is there.
Oh, all right,
it's for you.
Right. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, Professor Mokti, thank you for your very informative talk. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, she's able to follow what you are saying.
Yeah,
you know what I was talking about, and still I want to support the idea is that is what the technology and the human requirements and the necessities are going on. You know, whether you like it or not, artificial intelligence and technology is going to actually dominate the human life. That's taken for granted. I also believe that you are right in a lot of cases like creative writing. You know, we cannot assess students' performance through machines because you are dealing with a complicated network of personality factors, psychological attributes, emotional and affective factors indeed. However, I'm just basically presenting what's scientifically and educationally dominant in the discipline. It is not anything personal. It is not anything that I like it or not, but we cannot basically deny the significance of artificial intelligence in human life generally and education specifically.
I think you see we are exceeding the time given by the host. See, all the 4 speakers mainly, they were worried to see that the students are not being given the accurate, perhaps descriptive feedback that is required while assessing. And we're happy to see that seniors like Dr. Mukti Sanyal and persons like Professor Ali Rahimi with his international exposure, Sujata Priyadarsini, who has put a lot of efforts into looking at the writing skills. Ravi Narayan actually dealt with the writing skills.
And probably one more sentence. Probably, you know what, we have been at the pandemic time, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So probably there is I call it unlicensed, unauthorized, extreme attention to anything digital, you know.
Thank you so much.
Probably in the long run, what you as a senior professor are asserting, maybe in the long run will be replaced by this I call it makeshift digital obsession with technology. And in the probably in the long run, and most probably in the long run, this obsession and then this fever is gone, and we get back to the previous humanistic approach to education.
Thank you so much.
You are right.
Now it's over to you, Dr. Anita. I see we have taken 2 minutes more of your scheduled time. Thank you all my friends and my resource persons,
Thank you.
Professor Rahimi, Professor Bukti Sanyal,
And also Professor Abbasian, who from far away, he provided us with important, Ghulam Raza Abbasian, as Dr. Abbasian, Professor Abbasian provided us with important, and I will deal with the question later on. Anyways, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shankar.
Okay.
Dr.
Shankar,
Malvika.
is there a possibility of getting the recorded, was it recorded?
Yes, it is on live.
It's online.
Will it be on
On YouTube,
YouTube?
yes.
Yes.
I have forwarded the link to you, Ali Rahimi, sir.
Oh, thank you so much.
To you.
Are you
Okay.
Anita? Are you Anita? Anita speaking?
I'm Dr. Anita speaking.
Okay, fantastic. You are fabulous indeed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for all your support.
Thank
And
you.
thanks
you,
again
everybody.
for Professor Shankar for your support and emotional support that you supplied with me.
Thank you so much, Professor Ali Rahimi.
Okay. Thank you, everybody,
Thanks.
for the
And
very,
I hope we can
very.
be in contact. And can you, Professor Shankar, can you provide us with the other presenters' email so that we can be in contact for future talks?
We'll send you the link. We'll send you the link. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Dr. Malvika.
Thank you, Anita, madam.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you, everybody. It was a really insightful gathering and scientific, discussion. Thank you very much. And I'm appreciative for Dr. Rahimi's invitation extended to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We are honored and we are delighted that you joined us and you supplied us with your inspirational ideas, Professor Dr. Abbasian. Thank you so much. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Shankar. And I also thank all the speakers here for the roundtable session. I would specifically like to thank Dr. Sanyal madam. I agree with her when she says that, we teachers, we are more concerned with the final outcome. And in the process, a lot of learning doesn't take place. Moreover, the students are merely doing the things for the sake of doing things. I do agree with her completely. And that is why, we find that, learners are no longer involved in the thought process at all. So I agree with you completely, ma'am. And I thank you for this wonderful session that we had today. So now I would like to say that there is a break that we have now for, I think we have another 5 minutes break now. So we will be joining.
Sorry to interrupt. There are some questions on the chat box. Should we leave them unattended to? Or just what happens to the questions on chat box?
We can attend to it a little later, sir.
So just should be right back or whatever, or what's the plan? Just leave.
You can reply on the chat box, Ali Rahimi, sir.
There are so many questions.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Because there's a second session that is going to follow after this.
Okay.
So we'll be eating into somebody else's time.
So
that would be unfair.
Is my duty over now? Can I leave or?
Yeah.
You can probably, if you wish, you would
I like to stay. I like to stay, but I don't know about what's going on.
No problem. If you can stay, you can stay.
I can stay.
You can stay, of course.
Thank you so much.
Hello. So we have a break of around 4 minutes, and then we join back at 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah.
Another round table?
No, we have it is a reading movement that we have the next session.
What kind of movement?
Meanwhile, can I ask Indu Sudan? Is he here? Indu Sudan?
Sir, good afternoon, sir.
Okay, Dr. Harita and Dr. Leena, have you all joined? Please turn on your cameras and say a few words just to set up the setting for next session.
Sir, good afternoon. I'm in, sir.
Yeah, great, Dr. Indu. Dr. Harita. And Dr. Leena. Dr. Leena.
Sir, is my voice audible? I'm Harita.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Dr. Leena.
Indu Sudan should know whether she has joined or not. Just check with Indu Sudan. He can also call her because they are colleagues.
Okay.
Indu Sudan?
Indu Sudan, can you call her?
Indu Sudan? He is not responding. I don't have her number. Otherwise, I could call her myself.
So good afternoon, sir. I've called.
Sir,
Ma'am
good
Zin, sir.
afternoon.
Ma'am is in
Good
already.
afternoon, sir. I'm here, sir. I'm here.
Okay, fine.
Great. Great. So we'll start our session sharp at 3:30.
I think first Harita ma'am will talk, sir, and that would be followed by me.
Yes, Lina ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Dr. Lena, can you please turn on your camera?
அங்க வைக்காத.
Over to you, Dr. Darshana.
So good afternoon all and welcome to the next session, ELTAI's Reading Movement, which is an innovative venture of ELTAI. And the moderator for this session is Mr. Indu Sudan. Mr. Indu Sudan is a poet, translator, and working as an assistant professor in Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore. His area of specialization is comparative literature, and he has 2 books to his credit. Welcome, sir, and I would like to request you to take over the session.
Thank you,
Over to
ma'am.
you, sir.
Thank you a lot. Have a great time all. I'm immensely happy to introduce the speaker, Dr. G. Harita, who is an assistant professor of English at the Department of English, St. Francis College for Women. She teaches English language and literature for undergraduate and postgraduate programs. Her research study emphasized the need for post-method pedagogy in the Indian classrooms at tertiary level. Dr. Harita is serving in different capacities like soft skills trainer, visiting faculty, course writer, and on. Now I would like to welcome Dr. G. Harita to take over the session. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everyone who is present there on this online platform. In fact, if I can call, good evening, ELTAI fraternity. I'm so glad that this virtual platform has been unraveling the treasure of knowledge since yesterday. Okay, since yesterday morning, 9:30 to now, we didn't even realize how time quickly flied off because we were witnessing enlightening deliberations, thought-provoking sessions. We have received suggestions and advices from the best of English practitioners across the world, isn't it? Okay, setting things apart, I'm Harita. I'm here before you all on this virtual platform to talk about a very innovative venture of ELTAI. Okay, that is the ELTAI Reading Club. So I will be talking about what ELTAI Reading Club is all about, and how we as English practitioners can contribute and take this club forward. Having said that, I'm not too sure of how to start with, but definitely I want to put forth my thoughts through a very short story that I recently came across from a magazine named Champak. Okay, and the story goes like this. The teachers of Champ's school, they were all really upset because they could see that their students are really good in their studies, but they did not read anything besides their textbooks. They were not interested in any books that were there in the library. If they had any free period, they would go to playground and have some gala time there. If there's any project that was given to them, they would just quickly search the internet for information and get the details there. Looking at this, the teachers, they have tried all possible ways to explain the benefits of reading. The children never tried to understand its importance. They always said, internet is the best. Rest of the time, they played games on the net and they used all kinds of social websites, to just while away the time. The children felt bored as they had to study all the time. They began their day in a school and then tuitions, and they hardly get any playtime. So that's the perspective of the children. But on the other side, the parents were getting all the more worried because the children are not interested in reading. All that they want to sit is just before a screen. So the parents and teachers, they got together in a meeting and they come up with a plan here. So on the very next day, in the school assembly, the principal makes an announcement like this. She says that whoever is a student who comes up with 50 interesting facts about anything, about any subject, will be given an award in the school assembly. Children get very excited to listen to this. They get very thrilled. Oh my God, we will be getting an award during the school assembly. So they all thought it's going to be a very easy task for them. They thought they would happily sit in front of the screen, search online, and the work would get over in just 10 minutes. However, principal slowly clarified that no one will take the help of the internet for this. All that they have to do is visit the library, get hold of some books, and they would do the task by referring only to books. Okay. Students were all stunned. They didn't know what to do and how to do, because for them reading is always a task. Okay, so they were thinking that, maybe this might take probably a day or so, but to their surprise, principal gives them a month's time to complete the task. The children were completely astonished to hear this. They whispered to each other saying that, now what will happen? How are we doing this? And what are we doing in 1 month's time? But each child wanted to win. Okay. So they tried their best going to library every day. The library remained packed with children, whether it was during lunchtime or a free period or whatever it is. All through the working hours of the school, the library was full. On the other side, surfing of social sites on the internet has drastically reduced. Okay. They could see, the librarian could see that people are now sitting with books, and in fact they are taking books home to read as well. They gather a lot of information on language, mathematics, astronomy, chemistry, and physics. No subject was left untouched. The parents and teachers were quite happy to see the students' diligence on what they are working on. All the children, they submitted their papers within a month, and they eagerly started waiting for the results, and they were feeling anxious about this, like what could happen. This is something that they have done out of their box. Okay. In the meantime, there's something that everybody could notice. Okay, that there's a change in children's behavior. Children are still continuing to borrow books from the library. They are going during the school hours. They're taking books home and reading them. Okay. And in fact, they were exchanging books also. And during their lunch breaks and all, instead of a general talk, they were discussing stories, essays, poems, and biographies. Okay. After a week or so, it's the time the principal wants to announce the results. The children were all waiting for that, and during the assembly, they were surprised to see that Principal Ma'am, she announces Deepika's name as the first prize winner. They were all surprised because Deepika was never a bright student in studies. But Principal made it a point to explain that though she was not bright in studies, reading was her hobby. She had read more books than anyone else, and thus provided very interesting information on every subject. The information given by other children was nearly the same, but Deepika's interest in books has gotten her the first prize. If the other children formed the habit of reading, then they too would get good information. As an outcome of this competition, children did not feel bad, but on the other hand, they learned the importance of reading. Okay, they all said in unison, "Thank you, Principal Madam," and clapped their hands. Now, parents and teachers can see that children are frequently visiting the library. They have opened a book club near their house, and they exchanged books among themselves, and they started reading, and some of them started writing as well. Books have become their true friends. Okay, when I was reading this story, okay, this above story, it made me understand that the teachers of the Champs School showed their children that reading should be presented to children not as a chore or a duty, but as a precious gift, right? So this is what exactly ELTAI wants every learner to secure. Okay, that is the gift of reading. As we all know, reading is a habit that each individual develops at a very young age by looking at some colorful pictures to small lines, simple sentences, then with small paragraphs. Okay, slowly and eventually they turn this entire reading into fun, and it becomes an academic reading also, which we all know this happens as a very natural phenomena. But things are not the same always. With the invasion of technology, the world is now at the disposal of our children in the form of a television, a mobile phone, a laptop, and whatnot. You have lots of search engines and online channels, which we can say has thwarted the reading thoughts of learners in an unthinkable and unusual way. I hope most of you agree with my idea. For the present generation teachers and parents, it's a matter of grave concern that this visual generation, what we're calling our children today, has strayed away from the culture of reading, a skill which our teachers and we recognized as a mother of all skills. Even if by chance, if they happen to read something, what they could read is through some, flipping through some non-serious texts, or just going through a piece of paper that's found on their way. But it is important and essential to equip our youth, our learners, with the skill of reading. The youth today need to have competence in creative thinking, critical thinking, design thinking, emotional and social intelligence, which can positively be achieved through proper reading habit. Okay, so if we are to develop the reading habit, as parents, yes, most of us would try at home, but we have to create a possibility of cultivating this habit, which is now, becoming very remote. Okay, so how can we do this? One certain way for sure that we all know as teachers and parents is to create an environment for them that makes them conducive to read. Okay, so in order to create that environment, we need to see to it that they are with books, they are amidst of books. Okay, they should be constantly being told the importance and prominence of reading and understanding and feeling a book, most importantly. So aligning all these thoughts together, putting all these thoughts together, ELTAI has come up and shaped up what is being termed as ELTAI Reading Club. Okay. To be more specific about what these objectives of the ELTAI Reading Club is, basically it is looking at creating a kind of an ambience or love for reading in students to enable them to become lifelong readers. And it's not just focusing on what is needed for that semester or year, lifelong readers. Okay, it's trying to focus, it's primarily trying to enable them to understand and reflect how important it is to have good writing and reading skills, not just writing and reading, but reading, which eventually draws to other skills. Okay, and it also tries to familiarize different types of genres that are available now with appropriate reading strategies. Okay, and by applying some tools like some different kinds of modes, like online, offline. We have virtual meetings online and offline, debates, competitions, all this, because we need to really sustain that interest that we have started. So these are the few objectives with which ELTAI has aligned this reading club initially. So how we as English practitioners can take this initiative forward? Maybe, see, this is very interesting when we see it on paper. Okay, but how can we take this initiative forward? So here I go to say that. So if you are really interested to take this initiative forward, we as English practitioners, we need to become a long-term member of ELTAI with 5 members from your institution. Okay, so the institution should provide a proper space and resource persons on the campus so that students can meet regularly along with the mentors. Okay, and a small library can be built with students' contributions. Initially, we get a little contribution, monetary contribution from ELTAI, but it can be built thoroughly through students' contributions and donating books and exchange of books. And the institutions can also think about different ways and strategies to bring books into the small library. What they can do is probably, the mentors can motivate the students to read at least, per semester or per year. Give them a target like 50 books, 100 books of their choice. Don't impose. Instead of their choice, we should be able to ask them to read through the books. Okay, and to sustain this interest and take this interest forward, it is also important that we can observe some of the important activities such as International Reading Day, International Reading Week, and International Reading Month, and so on. So majorly this reading club, whatever the institution has now set up, it is more or less a learner driven and a learner managed one. Okay, there'll definitely be guidance from mentors and the faculty members, but mostly it should be a learner driven one. The learners have to meet frequently and interact about the recent books that they have studied, okay, the recent learnings from their books and all, in order to make them more into the contemporary things. We can invite resource persons from the ELTAI fraternity. Okay, possible seminars, webinars can be organized to actually put their ideas and their thoughts together. Okay, so the institution can give prizes for the students who have come up with good ideas from the readings of these books, just as a kind of an incentive to them, right? So these are the possible things that we can do from ELTAI. What we can expect is one-time financial assistance that we get, and the resources, the ELTAI will be sharing research-based reading framework, which incorporates audio and video materials. You'll have e-text, printed text of different kinds, depending on the interest of the learners. So these texts will range from canonical to contemporary literature, mass media, social text, so on and so forth. Okay. So on this, isn't all this sounding really exciting to all of us as English practitioners? And we also would want to see our learners to be the reading knowledge bees of tomorrow, right? I hope the answer would be a big yes. So to make this happen, I request whoever's there on this platform today, okay, to reach out to ELTAI to make this movement a reality. To mention a few colleges across India who have already been a part of Reading Club, SFR College of Women, Shivakasi, Tamil Nadu, Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu, GL Bajaj Group of Institutions, Mathura, Uttar Pradesh, St. Mary's College, Hyderabad, Telangana, have signed MOU to make this reality a possibility. And they're making it happen. To align the possibility from your institution, please feel free to reach out to the office bearers of ELTAI. And for more information, please do refer to the ELTAI website for basic details. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Reading. Reading is not a pressure, but a precious gift. Thank you, ma'am, for the captivating share of insights and experience on cultivating reading habits through ELTAI reading movement. Thank you, ma'am. Next, I would like to invite Dr. M. Leena Chandrika, who is currently working as assistant professor in the Department of English at Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore. Her specialization is Indian literature. She has 14 years of teaching experience, and to her credit, she has received more awards. I would like to invite Dr. M. Leena Chandrika once again to brief ELTAI reading movement and its erudite transactions. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Indasudan sir, and thank you, Harita ma'am, for your introduction, and also an introduction for giving an introduction about the reading club. Yes, Indasudan sir, I'll just share my screen. Just confirm me whether it is visible.
All right, ma'am.
Is it visible, sir?
Yes, ma'am. We have got that visible, ma'am. Can you proceed, ma'am?
Is the PPT visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So good evening all.
Please proceed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening all. First of all, I would like to thank the ELTAI for giving me this opportunity, and I'll just begin my session. So I'm here to tell about the reading movement that we have inaugurated at SREC. SREC is our institution, Sri Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore. And we have initiated this reading movement in our institution. Before that, we signed an MOU with ELTAI in the month of March 2021. And we inaugurated the reading movement officially through ELTAI. And then why reading movement at SREC? So this is a question that would be there in everybody's mind. And since even us as an engineering college, still we try to make our students, we give opportunity for the students to develop their reading habit, because that is very, very important, because nowadays reading habit is not at all being practiced by the youngsters. So considering this, that reading skill is recognized as a mother of all the other skills. It is obvious, yes. So in order to make reading culture as their lifelong habit, we have decided to initiate this activity, and also in order to attain creative thinking, critical thinking, design thinking, emotional and social intelligence, and other related to cognitive skills. We have initiated this club in our institution. So there are the students need to face the placements and so on. So this particular activity, this particular habit that we are going to make them practice throughout their course of study, I think this will definitely help them in facing their interviews and so on. Yes. And one particular thing that which we liked in the proposal, in the MOU that we signed in the, with the ELTAI is, like they have promised, like club, through this club, we could make the students to read 100+ books of their own choice, that is within a period of about 3 to 4 years. Okay, so like an engineering course is about 4 years, as we all know. So we have a plan to start from the second year or second semester of their course, and that is how we are planning to make them to read at least 100 books before they complete their course. Yes. So with and we have already set up a room. We have set a library for this club in our institution. And as mentioned in the MOU, we are also going to make a record of attendance, so that maintaining the record attendance will make the students be regular to their class, and also not only for the class, like they will obviously they will develop their reading habit by continuously attending the class. And then we have also planned, like they need to submit a review on the books they have read. So maybe per week, maybe 2 hours or 1 hour we are planning. So every hour we are going to give them an activity. So for the next class, they need to be prepared for the activity, and they need to submit a review on whatever they have read. Like it might be an article, or it might be a book, science fiction, or whatever out of their choice. They need to read something, an article. We are also planning to give, in particular, knowing the interest of the students, we are planning to identify the text and give them for the next session that they would attend. So that the students could read that piece of article, and they need to come and submit their review on that. And then it is also planned, like those who read the maximum number of books will be recognized on the occasions like college functions, or maybe an annual day, or maybe an international book day, or whatever it is. We are also planning to recognize such students, or those who have given their maximum efforts. Okay, and then how do we start the club activity at SREC? Yes, we have planned to take a survey among the students. So right now, the first years are in our institution. So we are planning to give them a survey based on their reading choice. So once we collect this response, we are planning to segregate the students. We have around 19 classes in the first years, and so we need to collect the response from all these students, maybe through Google form. We are planning to collect the survey, and then we are going to segregate the students. And we have already 5 mentors in our institution, and our institution is also a long-term member of ELTAI. and these 5 mentors are also long-term members. And with these mentors, we are going to guide the students, and that is how we are going to proceed with the reading club activity. Okay, and in every session, we are planning to have around 100 sessions. So on every session, we are planning to pick up a particular strategies of reading. We are going to tell them, explain them about that strategy. And then we are going to give them an article or maybe a page wherein they could identify how to read that particular text using the respective strategies. And then we also plan to play a video in every session, so that they could clearly understand about what is the strategy is all about, or how to read the text. And then one more important thing that we have initiated is we have included this reading club activity in our curriculum. So it is already implemented. Right from this year, we are going to do it. Like from the second semester till the 7th semester, the students need to select any one of the clubs that is there in our SREC. We have included reading club also in that list, and we are making students to be a member in the reading club throughout their semester, like from the 2nd semester till 8th semester. So that they could. Yes. Sorry, who's that?
You continue, ma'am. You please continue,
okay.
ma'am.
Okay. So we have also made it like those who are there in the club from their 2nd semester till the 7th semester, a credit will be given, like that credit will be added to their CGPA. So this is one of the most important initiatives I think that our institution has taken. And yes, in order to retain and reframe the reading culture, and also as an first activity of the reading club, we collaboratively along with the ELTAI, we conducted an 8-day national level FDP on reading back to basics. And we conducted this in the month of August 2021. We had around 30 resource persons, and we had around 30 sessions on different strategies of reading, and also a roundtable discussion wherein we made the participants to explore to explain how they were able to make reading a lifelong habit in their life. And then the concept note of this reading, the FDP was reading can make us better speakers, reading can make us better writers, and reading can make us even better listeners, and reading alone can make us better readers. So with this concept note, we conducted this FDP. And then objectives of the FDP was to familiarize the participants with the complexity of reading and reading process, and also to familiarize them with the reading strategies and skills appropriate for different reading purposes and different text types. Yes. And then finally, to enable the teacher participants to facilitate their learners to explore the opportunities for lifelong reading, and to enable the research scholar participants to understand the various dimensions of reading to be able to choose problems for investigation. So on all these, based on these objectives, we conducted this FDP. And of course, we had so many speakers. I'm just sharing photos of those resource persons that they were in the FDP. And we had an inauguration, and then we had a roundtable session that was more felicitated by Dr. Mohan Raj sir. And these are some images of some of the participants who shared their experience, how they are practicing reading habit in their life. And then these are some of the session, like I just want to share it, like resource persons sessions. And this was done by Dr. Ilangovan sir and by Dr. Ramani sir, developing reading skills in rural learners, and rereading and rethinking reading comprehension questions done by Dr. V. Karthika, and then reading in relation to other skills by Dr. Deepesh Chandrasekhar. And then by Dr. Ali Rahimi, he had a session on reading in a foreign language and intercultural communication perspective, and multimodal reading by Dr. V. Anita Devi, and so on. So during the Ilongo sir's session, he insisted on having a different type of approach rather than reading text mechanically. Dr. Ramani sir gave a different approach. Like he targeted on key issues like comprehension versus production, difficulties versus challenges, and text difficulties versus learners' reading ability. And Dr. Ali Rahimi focused on reading, like he explained like how to read by knowing the cultures. And Dr.
Leena,
Anita
sorry to
Devi.
interrupt. Can we go ahead? Dr. Leena, sorry to interrupt. It's time for next session. So can you please wrap up?
Yeah, okay. Okay. So these were some of the important things that I would like to share. And towards the end, we had a session called as action plan. So therein we were able to get contact of some of the institutions who were who volunteered themselves to initiate reading movement in their institutions too. Yes. And thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Certainly, ELTAI reading movement is one of its kind. And what is alluring here is that the meticulous come extensive plan and proceedings. Thank you for extending your ideas on the ways in which ELTAI Reading Club functions at SREC. And thank you again for sharing the glimpses of FTP we had in collaboration with ELTAI. Thank you, ma'am. And over to the host.
Thank you, Indusudhan sir. Thank you, Harita ma'am and Leena ma'am, for highlighting the importance of reading and making us aware of ELTAI's Reading Club. It is rightly said that it is the gift of reading, making us a lifelong reader. Now let me move to the next session and invite Professor Ramani, Dr. Swati, and Dr. Sujata Priyadarshini to talk about the achievements of ELTAI, that is, milestone of ELTAI. Over to you, Ramani sir.
Good evening. I suppose I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This session is supposed to last only 10 minutes to be shared evenly by the three of us. So I don't know whether I'll be able to do justice to the task assigned to me. I'm supposed to take only the first 3 minutes to talk briefly about the milestones that ELTAI has crossed over the years. You need to pay very close attention. All of you need to be active listeners because I may have to speak a little faster to cover all the points that I wanted to make. So starting from very humble beginnings, initiative started by a visionary Padma Shri Natarajan, an educationist, a school teacher, along with 6 of his friends. It has now grown to for about 4,000 members and 63 chapters spread across the country. And we also have a chapter for teachers, Indian teachers residing abroad, which was announced by Dr. Elango in his report presented at the inaugural function. Yeah. Now, interestingly, Sri Natarajan started the journal first in 1965, Journal of English Language Teaching. His idea was to make people buy the journal at a very cheap subscription. He even distributed them free so that after going through the articles, they would feel motivated to join the association whenever it was started. He started the association a few years later, 1969, and then we celebrated the Golden Jubilee year before last by holding the conference at Amity University. The primary aim of ELTAI was to help school teachers, basically school teachers of English, to get recent knowledge, both subject knowledge and pedagogic knowledge, as well as skills. But over the years, we have also been helping college and university teachers in these respective areas. So the reason why the journal was started first, now we have 4 journals, including the one started by our founder. Now we have 3 online journals in addition to the Journal of English Language Teaching. We have Journal of Teaching and Research in English Literature, the ELT practitioner, and the Journal of Technology for ELT. Interestingly, the Journal of English Language Teaching has recently been included in the UGC CARE list. So participants, please note that you may send your submissions, well-researched papers to our journal, and you get recognition for your publications. ELTAI conducted umpteen number of school-based, institution-based workshops and seminars based on the requests that we used to receive. I was a part of several such workshops myself in the 70s and 80s. And then we conducted annual conferences. You know that this conference is the 51st annual conference of ELTAI and 15th international conference. The first international conference was conducted in 2004, I suppose. I hope I'm not wrong in the date. And then another important milestone that I should mention is, apart from the regular activities that I've been conducting, we started preparing teachers for virtual teaching and virtual learning 2 decades ago. 2 decades ago, not during the pandemic, but 2 decades ago, in early 21st century, we started conducting workshops on the use of digital tools and the technological resources. We conducted workshops at several places. And 2014, 13 and 14, we conducted a series of 17 workshops on virtual learning, the special theme being virtual learning in itself. And then we have been conducting virtual workshops on Shakespeare, on digital tools for the teachers of English. And you are also aware of the webinar series that we have launched. The last one we had was the 76th one, and we'll continue to organize webinars every week. Dr. Ilango called them tea time webinars. FDP on reading using the virtual mode. Just a little while ago, you heard Dr. Lena Lingam talk about the FDP, Faculty Development Program we conducted. And then the reading movement that, Harita so charmingly presented to you. She mentioned the clubs, but its clubs are part of the wider movement called the reading movement. And we want that movement to catch up like the Chipko movement. Again, Dr. Ilango mentioned this in his report. In addition to this, we have entered into collaborative partnerships with several institutions as part of the reading movement, as part of partnerships with teachers associations in different countries. We have about 13 MOUs with other teacher associations in different parts of the world. And we also have been collaborating with institutions. We have institutional membership recently introduced. Dr. Ilongo mentioned that again. And then we also had a partnership with the Cambridge University, who requested us to be the author. We wanted ELTAI to be the author of a series of books and course books and workbooks for school level from grade 1 to grade 8. It's called the Monsoon series. If you visit our website or even the Cambridge University website, you will get access to that. You can sample the materials. And more recently, Hornby Trust. We have won Hornby Trust projects for the 3 times earlier. Now we have been granted another award recently to be implemented in 2021-22. We started working on that. And quite recently, about a week or 10 days ago, we also got an award from IATFL, International Association of Teachers of English as a Foreign Language, for a project called Prelim, Partnered Remote Language Improvement Project for school teachers in improving their classroom language. We have started discussion, and then the course will be delivered by a UK service provider to school teachers whom we had identified between January and March 2022. These are the main milestones that ELTAI has crossed. I also wanted to use this opportunity to bring very glad tidings to all of you. During the course of today's proceedings, in the plenary talk by Dr. Deepthi Gupta, she referred to the contribution made by Dr. N.S. Prabhu, and then the panel discussion and the debate made frequent references to Dr. N.S. Prabhu's contribution. I'm happy to inform you that Dr. N.S. Prabhu's contribution over the last 6 decades has been recognized, and he has been awarded quite recently the ELTAI's Outstanding Achievement Award 2021. ELTAI's Outstanding Achievement Award for 2021 goes to Dr. N.S. Prabhu. Out of 95 nominations and recommendations from different countries, and Dr. Prabhu's name was chosen as the only one individual who has contributed intellectually to start questioning the various methodologies that we have been importing. And he said, learning takes place in the mind of the learner. The teacher doesn't have a role to play, of course, limited role to play, but learning has to happen in the mind of the learner. I don't have time to go through many of his achievements. He has been referred to as the godfather of the task-based syllabus and the Bangalore project. He implemented the Bangalore project. He's a mentor for innumerable teachers of English in India. And he's always for the ideas, not for persons. And during the award ceremony, I have the link later. I watched the video last evening. It runs to more than an hour. Out of the 1 hour and 6 minutes, 10 minutes video, several awards were announced for best resources in English, teacher resources, and so many things. 40 minutes were devoted. 25 minutes were devoted to Dr. Prabhu's achievement alone. People from different parts of the world, like Jane Willis and others, and from India, people who had been mentored by him. I was also happy to be associated with him. He was a member of the doctoral committee when I was working for my PhD degree. So this is something that we need on the ELTAI wants to celebrate. And I appeal to all the participants to make a note of this. Please go through his writings. Second language pedagogy is well known. And recently, last year, he published a collection of all his previous papers as perspectives on teaching of English. You find a review of it in the journal released yesterday at the inaugural session. It will be uploaded on the website by the end of tomorrow. Thank you very much for this. I think I've taken more time than I was allotted. I couldn't help it. I apologize to the other two presenters. Thank you very much.
Not, sir. Always a pleasure listening to you. Thank you so much. And congratulations to the professor that you've mentioned.
Yeah, Dr. Prabhu. Dr. N.S.
Dr.
Prabhu.
Prabhu. Yes,
NSP.
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
A very good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Swati Chikkala, Vice President, ELTAI Visakhapatnam Chapter, Andhra Pradesh. I'm truly honored to be here amidst such academic luminaries pan-India and beyond. With 3 minutes in hand, I'm here to share a glimpse of one of the initiatives of ELTAI Visakhapatnam Chapter. We'll go really quick. ELTAI Visakhapatnam, which is a relatively young chapter, was inaugurated in 2018 with close to 19 members right now. And very recently, we've started a blog for our chapter members as a medium of expression and dialogue, and also as a space for conversation. So my fundamental focus here would be to share why we started this blog and how it would benefit our members. So to begin with, our chapter has a tradition of interaction with its members once in a while, so as to facilitate academic deliberations and collaborations. And such occasions gave us a peek into our members' academic and professional activities, innovative pedagogies, especially in line with the hybrid and the blended mode of learning that we have in the current times, and also the creative output and such. We have a good blend of faculty and student members in our chapter who engage in blogging, which gave us the hint of showcasing these talents on a common platform. We believe this will benefit the other members for upskill and also inspire each other for continuous professional development. The blog is also a platform for conversation threads on trending topics, which we hope would germinate new perspectives and thoughts, which is why we named our blog Luminous Waves. We have integrated this blog space in our chapter website, which is still under construction. And I'm happy to share that a few of our student members have already shared their thoughts on it. And our student members are the one who will be handling the blog activities going forward. With your permission, I'd like to give you a tour of our website and the blog space, which of course, as I mentioned, is still a work in progress. But anyway, I'd like to just share a glimpse of it. This is a chapter that our committee members, we designed it on our own with the support from the ELTAI core committee and technical support from the national body. And here we have these items specified as the index on the left column. And we also have the members blog here. And as we go on to the members blog, as I mentioned, the name of it, again, this is just a very tentative title that we've given, Luminous Waves. So the members can click on blog here. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So this is where they post, and the final product, this is how the blog would be visible, evidently, to the members who would join us later on online. So these are a few posts by our own student members who are really keen on poetry. So this is something we wanted to showcase to you on this platform, mentioning Achut Karthik and Neha Dasari, two specific people who have put in their efforts in sharing their poetry on our blog. This is only a work in progress, but we expect and hope that we enable this platform for a constructive communication between and among our members of the chapter. With this, I think I'm going to stop the share. Yeah, I think I've stuck to the time. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you, Sujata ma'am.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I'm from Chennai South chapter. We are fairly a young chapter which started, I think we started in Feb 2020. And as we started with a workshop for teacher training, but as soon as the first program was over, the pandemic struck, and from offline to online, we shifted everything. And this periodic meetings in the online gave rise to use of these online resources for this teacher training purposes. So one such initiative is the podcast. More than me saying, let me just share a video which gives a description of what we are planning to do. We are actually launching it today. We are planning to have podcast every once in 15 days, a fortnightly one, which I think should be helpful for other teachers. And even probably we are planning even to reach out to students, but we are starting with the teacher initiatives. Let me share the video with you one second. Okay, I think Swati ma'am has to stop. Yeah, thank you. Okay, let me play. One sec.
Hello everyone. Here is a brand new gift for you from English Language Teachers Association of India, the ELTAI Cafe, a podcast for the English teacher. We are launching our exclusive virtual cafe on this special day, 21st November 2021. The ELTAI Cafe is specially brought to you by the ELTAI Chennai South chapter. If you are part of ELTAI, well, then professional development as a teacher is something on your mind already. And the ELTAI Cafe is definitely one step forward in the right direction. So first things first, what is a podcast? A podcast is a digital medium consisting of an episodic series of audio and even video, PDF or EPUB files You can subscribe to it and download it through web syndication or even stream it online via computer or a mobile device. So there are thousands of free topics to choose from, and it is very portable. You can listen to them anytime and anywhere.
Why podcasts? Well, the role of the English teacher in a country like India has been changing constantly, and there's so much to learn, to try, and to share. As an English teacher, you must have had hundreds of questions, self-doubts, and how do I do this moments every time you go to a class. The podcast can provide you with an instant solution for many real-time classroom problems. With podcasts, it is easy to create teaching materials, distribute them, and download them. You don't need any professional or sophisticated equipment to do this. And podcasts are accessible anytime and anywhere. Therefore, they are perfect for multitasking teachers like you. You can listen to them even while you are busy accomplishing your other important tasks. Podcasts have a wide reach as they may be accessed by anyone, anywhere in the world. And the best thing about them is that they are free of cost. They can thus bridge the gaps in the availability of infrastructure as they are easily available even to those teachers who have little access to technology. So what's on the menu of ELTAI Cafe? You can listen to teacher narratives in which teachers share their own experiences. You too can share your own narrative through the podcast. You can also listen to interviews, book discussions, talks on teaching activities, and research practices. Apart from this, you can also listen to expert guidance for continuous professional development, panel discussions, student experiences, discussions on teaching resources, technical tips, and many more. How can you subscribe to our podcast? Download an app like Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Subscribe in the podcast show page in the app. The link to the podcast page will also be available in the ELTAI website. If you have any queries, please mail us at ELTAI Chennai South Chapter @gmail.com. If you think listening is the new reading, then tune in to our ELTAI Cafe.
Okay, this is about a podcast. It will be available for the next in the next 15 days. It will be there, and every 15 days you'll have a new episode. So this is from Chennai South Chapter. Thank you for giving us a chance to talk about our podcast.
Okay, so thank you, Professor Ramani, Dr. Swati, and Dr. Sujata for sharing with us the diverse initiatives taken by different chapters of ELTAI. Now over to you, Malvika ma'am, for the next session.
Welcome to the pair discussion on Are aspects of online learning here to stay beyond the pandemic? The chairperson for this session is Dr. Sonali Bhattacharya. So let me introduce you to Dr. Sonali Bhattacharya. She is a freelance consultant working in the area of English language, communication and soft skills, teacher education, curriculum and materials design. She is a training consultant for British Council, India, and is trainer for the Cambridge Assessment Teacher Support Programs in India. We welcome you, madam, and request you to kindly chair the session.
Good afternoon. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to introduce you to 4 very eminent speakers for the session today. Time is very short, so I am going to take about 3 minutes to introduce 4 of our wonderful speakers. And we are going to have 2 paired discussions in this session today. The speakers in the first discussion are Professor Deepesh Chandrasekharan and Professor Cherry Matthew Philippos, who are both teaching at the Shiv Nadar University in Chennai. And Professor Chandrasekharan has a PhD in English language education from the EFL University, Hyderabad, and has taught extensively in Delhi and Doha, Qatar, and has been executive director of the CLIL at India project, among very many other things. Professor Philippos has a PhD in English language education from the EFL University, Hyderabad, and has taught English language in Myanmar and is actively engaged in preparing students for the IELTS, the TOEFL, GRE, and campus recruitment training. His areas of interest include teacher education, CPD, educational technology, ICT, and pedagogy. Our speakers for the second paired discussion are Professor Atul Patil and Professor Rahul Ramesh Kale. Professor Patil is currently the director at the School of Holistic Development, MIT, Art, Design and Technology University, Pune, and he holds a PhD in English from the Symbiosis University, Pune. And he holds, and he's also on the editorial board for the International Research Journal of India and the subcommittee of CII. And he's associated with very many other organizations, but he's interested in teacher trainings, CALL, e-learning, and MOOCs. Professor Kale is currently working at the Tolani Maritime Institute in Pune and is a visiting faculty at the ELTAI Symbiosis Pune, a guest faculty at the Birla Institute of Technology for their corporate training programs, and is executive secretary to the ELTAI Pune chapter. His areas of interest include guiding student placements, organizing events, online teaching, and testing. So that being done, the lists were very, very exhaustive. So, you know, I'm not sure whether I did justice in just picking up a few of their great credentials, but let us move on with the insights that they will be sharing with us. So a few housekeeping points here. A 5-minute question answer session will follow each of the discussions. You are welcome to post your questions on the chat box. I'll be looking in. And I request you, however, to mention who among the speakers you would like to address your queries to. That would be helpful. Well, the first topic for today, right now in this session, is: are aspects of online learning here to stay beyond the pandemic? So it's 4:30 now. It would be nice if you could wrap up by 4:45. So I shall now hand over the session to Professor Chandrasekharan and Professor Philippos.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bhattacharya. First of all, both Dr. Cherry Matthew Philippos and me, we thank ELTAI for this opportunity. It's a very inventive idea of having a paired discussion. We are more than happy to involve in this. And then the topic we've chosen is: are aspects of online learning here to stay beyond the pandemic? So our paired discussion is going to be in 2 short blocks. The first block is going to talk about the current situation that we are in due to the pandemic. And the second is going to delineate a little bit more about the aspects of online teaching and learning, which we think are here to stay, right? So I was listening to Dr. Ramani a few minutes ago. He was talking about how ELTAI is involved in online activities or online teaching training, or preparing teachers for online teaching for more than 2 decades now. So being a front runner in that sense. Online learning was a thing we heard off and on and all that, but suddenly we were thrown into the deep end of the pool, so to say, due to the pandemic. The situation came about where we couldn't meet people in person, we couldn't have offline classes, we couldn't have classes that in the normal fashion that we do. And so we were thrown into the deep end of the pool. People do say that language teaching or learning is like swimming in many ways, that it's a set of skills that the more you involve in it, the better you become and so on. But here we were in a situation where suddenly we were thrown into the deep end of the pool of online teaching learning, where some of us didn't know really how to swim.
Thank you, ELTAI. I can't help but say Mingalaba to all my Myanmar participants over here. I was very happy to see a couple of Myanmar names. So Mingalaba, and thank you, ELTAI, for giving us this opportunity to discuss a very pertinent topic. As Deepesh sir was telling at the beginning, so we were all thrown into the pool without much training. So what has happened overnight is teachers shifted, just put their teaching into the online mode. So it's like the old wine in a new bottle, which actually won't work, because since the mode has changed, you need to adapt or change as per the requirements of the mode. So there are a couple of affordances which are there in the online teaching, which if teachers are not ready to exploit or understand, it's going to make the whole ecosystem fail. So that is something which we have to keep in mind. But at the same time, there were teachers who were ready to invent and innovate, and also to reach out to people who are doing it, and to communities, and to understand what is this mode, right? I mean, and how this mode is going to affect my teaching. So the teachers who were able to think about that were able to kind of adjust or tweak their teaching in order to accommodate to the new mode of online teaching. So they were able to exploit new platforms, new tools. They were able to engage the students, interact with them. It was no more the transmission mode of teaching which was happening, but it became participatory in many sense. Over to you, Deepesh sir.
Yes, I completely agree with what you said, Dr. Cherry, when you say that, whereas most people were caught unawares, and, the usual inertia that we had towards online teaching or online teaching methodologies, that was missing for most of us, and we were suddenly taken unawares. But a few of us rose to the occasion and used several tools and so on. One overarching problem that most teachers felt or faced when suddenly they had to get into the online mode was the fact that students were not as participatory as in the actual classroom. So in the actual classroom, you are seeing them eye to eye, you are moving around the class, you're interacting with them on an ongoing basis. You can see their faces, you can see the twinkle in their eye, you can see there's understanding, you can see that something is missing, and there's a doubt on somebody's face. You can sort of respond to feedback in a much more intense, immediate way. But when you went online, suddenly camera was muted, mics were muted. We didn't get the kind of feedback that we get when we're teaching offline. So when you're teaching in the classroom, every move on the face, every expression that the students made in any corner of the class, we were tuned to sort of sense it and take that as cue and sort of improvise and adapt to the situation. Sometimes to retell what you say a joke in class and there's immediate smile, okay, they understood. Here you make the best of jokes and you're wondering whether your mic is off, whether you're muted, and you're wondering whether, am I audible? I think the overarching question most of us asked during this online teaching was, am I audible? Right? So I mean, there are lots of memes, there are lots of a lot of fun we had on the basis that there's this absence of real-time feedback.
Yes. So absence of the real-time feedback and how to pitch your lessons, how to pitch your teaching, because there is no feedback, immediate feedback coming from your students, because most of our students have the option to turn the video off. So they could be just rectangles, dark rectangles in many cases in front of us, and we have to presume that they are there, presume that they are listening, right? And then go on with the teaching. At the same time, I would like to highlight two modes of, or two aspects of online teaching. One is called the synchronous mode of teaching, and the other one is known as the asynchronous mode of teaching. In India, we have seen both this happening under the umbrella of online teaching. So there were few of us, or many of us, who were teaching the sessions live on platforms like Zoom, Teams, Google Classroom, etc., or Google Meet, etc. And there were teachers who would have videographed their session and then posted it on WhatsApp or some other platform so that the students can watch it, and then you can do some sort of follow-up with that. And we call both of them as, online teaching. So you have to understand that since you're going live and you're going a recorded session, it has got to have, aspects of online teaching which could be different. There is live engagement. There is a possibility of live engagement with the students when you are going with the live sessions, whereas you all have to think of something to which, check whether your students have actually understood what you have posted. You have to devise some methods by which you can ensure that the videos are watched, students have learned, and some sort of formative or summative assessment should be also incorporated into the whole system. So please keep in mind, in India, when we call online teaching, we have both the asynchronous as well as the synchronous mode of teaching in mind because of many reasons, including economics. Over to you, sir.
Yes, I think you've touched upon a very important aspect, that mode of delivery. Are we truly online in the sense that we, like in this meeting, we are synchronous, we are it's real time, is going live, people are watching us from various parts, and incidentally both of us are sitting across each other, but we could be at various places. So the teacher and the student need not don't have to share the same space. So the classroom space got broadened in many ways, like Ms. Dr. Megha Trivedi just said. More than asking the question, did you understand? I think the question asked was, am I audible? Right? So the mode became an important thing, like Dr. Cherry was saying. Synchronous versus asynchronous became an important thing, right? So we realized that asynchronous modes of learning, where you can upload a video and use a tool like WhatsApp, which is widely available, much cheaper, more sure, more definite. In many ways, we have adopted those kinds of technologies as well, right? So teaching was also not restricted to a strict 8 to 4 kind of a mode, right? So when we are offline, we have a physical class. Our class is from this time to this time. We walk into class, we walk out, and that's it. The engagement with the student is a little bit less outside the classroom on an ongoing basis. But today, because of the pandemic and the online situation, now we are all the time, the boundaries of time, the boundaries of location, they have fudged. So we have flexible times, flexible locations. I saw Dr. Atul Patil is sitting in a car. So he can do that when you're online. If you're offline, it's very difficult, right? You have to be in the physical space of the classroom. You cannot not be in the classroom, but it's flexible now because you're online. So you can, timings are flexible, your locations are flexible. So this is the current situation. This is a broad summary of the current situation. Now, what aspects of this online teaching learning can we say, or can we claim that are here to stay, in the sense that are we sure that there are some aspects of this which are going to remain with us now that we've experienced it and we saw, oh, this looks like a good tool for us to use, or good aspect for us to use, and we can go ahead. So for example, when we talk about this asynchronous mode of learning Dr. Cherry was referring to, the aspect of flipped classrooms, right? We've been listening to flipped classroom forever, and we're like, oh, okay, flipped classroom and so on and so forth. But here was an opportunity for us to absolutely use it and make efficient use of it. I mean, not only use it, but use it very, very effectively. So we had a situation where we could actually teach grammar by just producing a video or explanatory notes, share it with the students, and before the class time, you get them to watch the video or get an idea, an overview of the notes, and have only a discussion and elaboration, a more detailed kind of delineation in the class. So that kind of a flipped classroom context, even in literature, we could actually explain a poem, explain something about the nuance of a short story, and then have an engaging discussion in the classroom. So during the class, we have the discussion. Before the class, content is delivered. So in terms of aspects of content where we had grammar teaching or literature teaching, we could effectively use the flipped classroom. So I think asynchronous mode of learning, using various tools, including videos and so on, I think those are here to stay.
And another interesting aspect which has improved a lot right after the pandemic is the digital literacy. Earlier, teachers knew about the technology, they've heard about it, but they were very skeptic. Like, I mean, whether will I be able to manage it? Will I be able to use it? What if I make mistake? But now, deep end of the pool, we don't have any other option but to start using it. And through use, we have learned from we made mistakes, and through the mistakes, we have learned. And that is one positive spin-off of this whole phenomenon, where, like, I mean, the digital literacy has improved. We have learned about the gadgets, we have learned about the possibilities, we have learned about the limitations, we know what could be used, how it could be used, what are the problems that can be that we can face, etc. So that is one thing which has improved a lot. So now we all have become more or less comfortable, at least, like, I mean, even though the digital literacy could vary from person to person, from platform to platform, from area to area, depending upon how explorative you are, right? Like, I mean, would you like to, because some of us are very cautious. Like, I mean, we would like to use those platforms, those tried and tested platforms, which we are very comfortable with. But somebody like me, like, I mean, who won't be so happy with the tools that are available, right? Like, I mean, we'll be always checking, okay, let me try something new. Maybe I'll fail, maybe I won't fail. But so that possibility is there, and many people have started using it. And the other aspect of it is, we have heard of this term digital native, and we consider our students to be digital native. One revelation of this whole pandemic and the online teaching which is happening is, yes, they are digital natives, but do they really know how to use the online medium for learning, for learning something new? That is something which we as teachers have realized, and many of us, like, I mean, have extended some amount of learner training to the students, showing them how to use a Google Doc or how to use a Google Jamboard in order to help them assist in their own teaching learning process. So this myth of the digital native, or the assumption that they know better than us, so then there is nothing we could teach them, has really come down. I think, I mean, that amount of learner training is something which is going to stay here, and it is something which the teachers have to keep in mind whenever they introduce a new tool or a platform to the students for the sake of online learning teaching.
Yes, all of us who have been in teacher training or teacher education in some way, the biggest revelation for us are twofold. One, the teachers who would always, without batting an eyelid, say online teaching won't work and so on and so forth. They had to adopt, they had to grab this and they say, yes, we can do something with it. Like Dr. Cherry just said, the people who are filled with inertia, well, should we really try this? They became more adventurous and say, okay, let me try this. Let me try. If it works, that would be nice, and so on. So the willingness to adapt, the willingness to change, willingness to try new things, I think is here to stay. That is a major attitudinal change that has happened among the teachers. Second, like Dr. Cherry said, among the students, we used to take them for granted. So if our PowerPoint is not working, if something is not working, we would sort of assume that, oh, somebody in the class would know, because they are like, come on, they are born and raised the baby, you give a baby a telephone, they know exactly, not a baby, but a young child, you give them a telephone and they know exactly how to move from the home page to the page with games on it, and how to maneuver the games. So we sort of think that they're digital natives, but we had to sort of teach them, or at least train them slightly on using tools like Jamboard. Tools like even for attendance, we started getting into modes like, even instead of calling out names, I think even in the offline classroom we might actually go in for a Google form, or use of clickers, or some such QR based application as well. I mean, online aspects are here to stay. Yes, I agree with what Dr. Bhattacharya just asked me, if can we say that we have devised a way to merge aspects of digital learning into our traditional teaching learning pedagogy? I am 100% sure that that is the case, and that's going to happen. I don't quite agree with somebody who says, Rajiv, I think, says online teaching is undoubtedly less effective than the actual classroom. I'm not really sure. I think we need both, and I'm sure that there are aspects which we are here ready to. The other point that you're talking about, Dr. Cherry, efficiency. I think when we talk about web resources, right? So, I mean, previously you ask a teacher, do we have any this one on that? We would actually go to an old book or something that we have in the library and so on. But today, everybody is ready to immediately source this online and make sense of what is available online, and use it much more effectively. So sourcing of information and use of that information is also an important aspect that has changed.
And one more thing regarding how the online mode caters to multiple intelligences or different learning styles. That is something which teachers all feel, I mean, lot more what do you call, powered with, because I mean, they can introduce songs, they can show videos, they can make them listen, they can make them write, they can put them into collaborative mode. There is a lot of stuff which you can actually do because of the platforms that are available to them. So that is something which we have to keep in mind. And I can see that the moderator's video is also on, which is a hint that we are running out of time.
We must shut up now.
Yeah.
I think just one quick aspect that I'll add is, with the permission of the moderator, that with the permission of the chair, that we used to have I don't know if it's correct to say that we used to have limited empathy, or empathy for students' excuses was very limited, right? Today, we are much more empathetic. They say we don't have enough bandwidth, so I'm not able to put a video on. We're not able to speak because of this assessment. I'm not ready to do this because whatever reason, right? So we, right or wrong, we've become more empathetic. We're able, because as teachers ourselves, sometimes when we are on the road, or we are in a situation where we're not connected to a wired connection and broadband and so on, sometimes we find net connectivity issues. Having faced that ourselves, we are more empathetic with the situation of the students today. Thanks to the online mode of education, I think.
And can I add one last point?
I think we'll have to keep some time for the question and answer session now. Maybe you could put something on the chat box.
Yeah. I mean, while they put the questions, can I add just one last point, one very last point?
Okay. All right.
So the teaching, like I mean, is no more, thanks to the online mode of teaching, it is no more a loneliest profession in the world. We don't know, like I mean, who all are watching our session with our students. Their parents would be there, their uncles, aunts, their neighbors would be there. We never know. So we have opened up our doors to the world, and we are no more insecure in any sense of that word.
And a spin-off, the other side to that is, you know, we can bring the best experts in any field, any specific aspect into our classroom. So the exposure that we get to resources is much more, has been amplified. Thank you.
Yes, that was a comment that came across from one of our participants, Sanjay Deolkar, I think. And just about a little bit of time left for questions for this session. Do we have one from Professor Patil? Would you like to comment? All right, maybe you can put it in the chat box. I think we have just about enough time to move into our second session here. Are there any questions? Anybody?
Dr. Ryan has asked a question.
Okay. Yes, Professor Ryan, come across.
Yeah, many students don't find online teaching or learning effective. Many recent surveys prove this point. What is your comment on this? Thank you, Dr. Ryan, for that question. I think you are best suited to answer that because you have your finger on the pulse. But yes, there are some aspects where, I mean, this is my opinion. There are some aspects where we could have done better, and there are aspects where we need to improve a lot and so on. But I think in the light of the discussion we just had, there are many aspects of online learning and teaching which are very effective, and they must be used even within, I mean, they must be woven into our classrooms in a blended fashion from now on.
And I think, I mean, this is a tool. This is only a tool. I mean, so we are all given the same tool, but how we are going to make use of the tool and the effectiveness largely depends upon the user. So we have to think, I mean, there should be, we all assume that teachers will all become experts in online teaching overnight. No, I mean, it didn't happen. There was no amount of teaching or training which has happened before the pandemic, which will equip them for the online mode. But teachers constantly innovated, reflected on their practices, and then they try to improve. So the effectiveness, I think, will largely depend upon that, and also the many people who participate in the class.
Not a tool, but a set of tools. Yes, thanks.
Yes, that has to be fitted to the basic pedagogy. So that's how it goes. And for the second session, I would like to invite Professor Patil and Professor Kali. And the session, this part of the session focuses on advantages and disadvantages of technology in the teaching of English. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Bhattacharya. Yeah, here, Dr. Patil and I, both of us are in a staff room, and we are going to present some discussion that is happening in the staff room. So good evening, Dr. Patil. How are you doing?
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Kale. I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Okay, good to know that. But why is Devika and Sakshi so sad today? What is the reason?
Yeah. They just came to the staff room some time ago, and I had a word with them. One of them had an online class because we haven't yet started with the first year classes. And the other, one had an offline class. So one is saying that I have to bite this bullet, and the other one is saying that I feel like a fish out of water. And this is the sin. So let me tell you what happened to Sakshi, when she went to the classroom, that is the face-to-face classroom. This is what happened.
Dr. Patil, the screen is not visible. If you could.
Okay. Just a minute. Is it visible now?
Yes.
Eight, 4, 5,
Today is my first day and I will be taking all your science subjects, so let's start off on a good note. Not that note, thank you. So let's start with a nice round of introductions. My name is Sakshi and I love working with young people.
Ma'am, my name is Anish. I was a topper last year. Ma'am, my IQ is 145 and I've got double promotion once.
My name is Andy. I like dancing.
My name is Chetan and I like to play the guitar.
Okay, everyone's done except the last roll number. Zara? Where is Zara?
Zara is a zombie. 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 Zara is a
Class, settle down. Gaurav, I'm gonna kill you.
This is the reason Professor Sakshi was a little upset. And about the other professor, this is what happened.
Yeah, the formula is a plus b whole square is equal to a square plus 2ab plus b square. Akash, it's not your doubt time now. You have a time set up. 1:15 to 1:20, it's your doubt time, not now. Not supposed to ask now. It's a formula, you have to memorize it. Now don't teach me, Arun. Marking up is different from memorizing. Okay, enough, don't shout. See, take a 10 minutes break. We are just catching it up again. Take a 10 minutes break. Fine, I'm irritated. I'm blocking you guys now.
So this is what happened to her. So what we really need to know is how to get rid of such kind of frustration, whether it is online or offline class. So when a system, has any difficulty, we use these three keys: Control, Alt, and Delete. And therefore, we also need to have control over the classroom. Maybe we might need to come up with alternate solutions, alternate activities, and we also need to delete this fear of using technology. In a nutshell, I can say that we need to know teachnology, that is teaching with technology, because technology has drastically influenced the way we live, and education is no exception. Look at these words that you see on the screen, for example. Window was just a small square hole in a house. Application was something written on a piece of paper. Keyboard was the piano. Mouse was just an animal. File was an important official document. Hard drive was a very long, road trip, hectic road trip. Cut was done with a knife and paste with glue. Web was a spider's house and virus was flu. And mind you, Apple and BlackBerry were only fruits. So this is what is happening. But the question is, we teach, but do the students really learn? That is what we need to keep in mind. And for this, let me quickly demonstrate what happens to students when we teach as teachers. Like what you see in my hand is glass of bottle of water, and water in this bottle represents knowledge. And this is the first cup, and the second cup, as you see, there is nothing inside the cup. So we pass on the knowledge to the student as a teacher. And then our role is, the student's role is to receive that knowledge and further pass it on whenever required, reproduce that knowledge. So let's see how much knowledge the students are able to reproduce, whether it is online teaching or offline teaching. And this is what happens. They are not able to reproduce the knowledge. So the question is, where does this knowledge go? And therefore, we need to keep this in mind and understand the difficulties that might be there when it comes to reproduction of knowledge from students' point of view. So technology, no doubt, has helped us overcome many challenges. But when it comes to teachnology, thousands of rupees have been invested, but we don't have any model that can be followed by many teachers. So hope you agree, Dr. Kale, with this.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Patil, for that wonderful magic. Is the technology able to perform that same magic in the classroom? Whether to use the technology or not to use it? That is the question. But of course, in this post-pandemic or after COVID, this question not to be used, of course, it is out of question. Technology is, of course, double-edged sword, and it can harm us or it can, of course, benefit us, depending on how we use it for the benefit of our students. But of course, there are a lot of challenges that our teachers have been facing in today's world, in the virtual world. Of course, as a corrective measure to fight against this unprecedented situation, many of the schools and colleges, they responded in their own way. But then according to the UNESCO and World Bank report, almost 463 million students were out of education, the mainstream education. Was it really affordable for them to switch on a virtual mode? Not really. And that created a virtual divide for many of us. Most of the students, they are still deprived of the primary education. They're not able to get the primary education. Moreover, when it comes to teaching of English, as we all know that in technical institutes, engineering colleges, English gets stepmotherly treatment everywhere. And this continued in the virtual mode as well. Students were, of course, attending classes, but then they were attending classes only for the sake of attendance. So there was a negative approach that our English teachers had to face a lot. Many teachers, English teachers, they had technophobia. Were they really ready to switch to the new change? Were they ready to adapt new changes and incorporate new activities? They were really very scared to do that. Of course, our students, they also showed a lot of lethargy on the part of them. Instead of taking down notes on their notebook, they preferred taking screenshots. And of course, it had short-lived impacts. And of course, as students were attending classes, there were so many distractors in between. The students in one tab were attending online sessions, and in the second tab, they were playing video games or they were on social media. So were they really learning? As you rightly pointed out in the beginning, that we were teaching, but were they really learning anything? And moreover, many of us, we faced challenges of inappropriate behavior of the students, inappropriate content being shared on or during the Zoom classes. So do we have any solutions for that?
Yes, Dr. Kale, you have a very valid point. Yes, many teachers around the world, around 50% of them faced what is the new normal now, Zoom bombing. But I also feel that, with the spread of technology everywhere now because of the pandemic in the last 2 years, we are in a way able to overcome this digital divide because many of the things are possible using mobile devices as well. And, we can do miracles. The only thing that we need to keep in mind is we need to plan. Technology never fails. Only if we are not able to plan effectively, it might fail. So as it is said that if we fail to plan, we are planned to fail. Secondly, if we keep on teaching students the way we were taught by our teachers, then probably we are robbing them for tomorrow. So we need to come up with innovative methods of teaching, and whatever limited resources that we have, we should focus on doing more with less cost, less resources that we might have. And apart from CALL, that is computer assisted language learning, as I said, mobile devices are widely used. So MALL is what is the new normal. And I can cite ample examples like, Professor Ranjit Desailly is a very recent example. With whatever limited resources that he was able to have a global connect for his students. So I think more responsibility lies on our shoulders as teachers, because if we dare to teach, we must never cease to learn. And if we focus on the 21st century skills, which are not going to be only about literacy where people are able to read and write, but it's all about learning, unlearning and relearning in the correct way. So if we peep into the history, we understand that technology has always influenced language. When printing was invented, new words were added, new words came into existence. When telephone was invented, again language became richer. Then broadcasting, computer, internet are no exceptions. So language is becoming richer and richer. Of course, there are two camps. One thinks that this is creative use of language. The other thinks that this is exploitation of language. But in the last couple of years, as we moved from offline classes to online classes, the experiences were very challenging. It was like driving a school bus, and making it fly. So we used much of our creativity with whatever limited resources that we had. You can see the pictures here. Teachers became very creative. Students did use their creativity, but that was not channelized effectively. So we really need to tap these things, and this is how things are changing in the field of education. So as you rightly said, there are both sides of the coin, but I personally feel that whether it is high tech or low tech, if we are able to come up with effective planning, with more engagement, we can innovatively bring in many solutions to our classroom. Over to you, Dr. Khan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Patil. Of course, we can bring in creativity, but then this online or virtual classes, they also created a lot of challenges, other set of challenge. That is, many of us or many students, teachers, they felt disconnect from the classroom sessions. As the students were attending classes without keeping their videos on, we could experience it in a previous session also, that the speakers were telling us that how we are talking only to the black screens, right? So the connectivity was not built properly. Of course, the teachers were not able to identify the body language of the participants, whether they were really getting what we were teaching them. And this is leading to another problem. The students are so much used to their isolation, individual learning, that they might face some challenges when it will come to the face-to-face actual interaction. Of course, there are challenges that some of our teachers faced, that when their videos were on, students were so notorious that they took screenshots and created memes, and they used their videos in a very wrong manner, which is very discouraging to the teachers, which is really very demotivating to the teachers if they see something like this happening. So this should stop.
Yeah, that is true. But when we talk about social connect or connect, with the classroom is no longer restricted to the four walls, what we used to have earlier. It has gone global, and the students, as far as learners are concerned, they are almost 24/7 connected. They are always connected, and on social media you can see them, so their presence. And therefore, if we incorporate social media, I think we'll be able to also overcome such difficulties. Because if we look at how students look at the use of technology and how we as teachers look, as the previous session helped us set the tone for this event. Professor Deepesh and Dr. Cherry talked about this, that digital immigrants as teachers and digital natives. So there is a very interesting project by a software engineer called Sugat Mitra, who installed such computers in walls, and this project is called Hole in the Wall. This proved that students can be independent learners. And when these computers were installed, these students from the nearby villages came and learned how to operate these computers. So that has definitely become the new normal. And we as teachers also moved from offline to online teaching. So we faced many challenges, but we ensured that the processes of teaching and learning do not stop. And when we look at students, this is how students are now adapting to technology. The student is asking the teacher to check homework on his homepage. Similarly, the daughter is asking the father to check about all her day schedule on her blog. Here the mother is convincing the child that it was not downloaded, but it was born. So this is how things are changing, and we should not be taken aback if in future people start using such language. Instead of shouting help, help, the person is shouting F1, F1. So this is going to change, is inevitable. This is how we used to deal with mistakes. Today, it is just a matter of 2 keys on the keyboard, Control and Z. So if we keep on following traditional methods, I'm not saying that traditional methods were not effective. They were effective in that context. Today, the context has drastically changed. And therefore, if we follow hard work, like this story of traditional, story of thirsty crow, who had to put pebbles into the jar one after another, only then the level of the water could increase. Whereas look at the modern crow, it simply uses a straw to drink water. which is less time consuming, more hygienic. So this kind of smartness is what is expected when we talk about English language teaching or any subject for that matter. This is how students have started using language. And we might not be able to follow all these acronyms, not only words and chatting like this, but many symbols like emoticons are being used, and this is how they use language. And as I said some time ago, people might call this exploitation of language, some people might call this creative use of language. But this pandemic has drastically influenced, and therefore the colleges are not going to be only a place where learning will be bound to specific needs and requirements. Students would be engaged in hard order thinking skills. Learning will happen collaboratively, globally. Any student from any part of the world can be in our classroom. There will be no fixed schedule, and we will be able to utilize space in the most meaningful ways, and this has already started happening. So we as teachers are not going to be only like sages on stages, but a guide by the side, and that is what is very important. So blended learning, flipped classroom, and the possibilities are endless. So this is how the future is going to be, because advances in technology have drastically changed the way students learn and the way we teach. So if the last 25 years could bring in this kind of change, we now as teachers must think about the next 25 years, because we are probably teaching them today for jobs that we are not even aware what they're going to have tomorrow. And like COVID-19 has also added to vocabulary. So this is how technology and many things have influenced everything. Yes, over to you, Dr. Kale.
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, that we also need to adapt to the changes so that we can teach these digital native students. But then it has been observed that there is a lot of lack of creativity on the part of teachers. We are not ready to adapt to the changes or make changes in our teaching plan or lesson plans. And this is why many of our colleagues, they are not able to sustain the students' attention span. Many of the students, they're just logging in the session, but then they are not responding. And that is also, again, demotivating the teachers. Of course, students have everything available at just a click, but then they are not ready to imbibe that knowledge on their own, or they are not knowledgeable. They are resourceful, but they are not knowledgeable. And somewhere this is reducing their ability to think or think creatively or think out of the box. Of course, as we can experience it in their writing, that the students, they are not able to write correct spellings, or many times they cannot differentiate between formal and informal communication. And the way they chat on social media or they chat with their friends, in the same manner, we experience that in the exams, they write this in the similar way. Or whenever they write any application, they do not understand the difference between formal and informal writing. And that is an impact of the technology or the social media on the way the students write. And they are not really getting motivated. So again, do we have any solutions for these problems?
Yes, there are many limitations when it comes to, teaching. But I feel that, if we stick to specific plans and if we don't have alternate plans, that is why I mentioned control, alt, and delete in the beginning of our talk, that if plan A doesn't work, we should not forget that the letter of the alphabet has many other letters, B, C, and you can go on. And that is how we can bring in more creativity. But I feel technology can really help us not only capture the attention of learners, but also sustain it for a longer period of time, because learning or teaching is not restricted to the classroom, and it is not even complete at every stage. So digital media technology can help us for reinforcement practice. It can give even the quietest student voice and a platform at his own pace. So learning can really become very student centric. But of course, technology cannot replace everything, but we need to keep in mind that the whole world has become a classroom, a global classroom. And with the help of technology, when we can deal with different learning styles, we can accommodate as many learning styles as possible if we use technology effectively. And if we start involving students in the process of teaching as well, rather than only asking them to be receivers of information. If we make them producers of information, focusing on these 21st century skills, I think we will be able to overcome these challenges also in the coming time. Because the future of education, as I said, that is not going to be teacher centric. As I said, there will be collaboration across the world, and students and faculty will also work together, might be together to teach and explore different things. Yes, on the other hand, I agree, that because of the way they type and chat with each other, some of them might not even know how to write on a piece of paper. So in the future, probably education will be free, but personal guidance will be costly. Over to you.
So I think we will have to wrap up for today.
Yes.
But that is indeed a very, very interesting discussion that we just had. You both, all four of you touched on some very, very pertinent aspects of this entire issue. The ones that I think have stayed with all of us here is the fact that despite the digital divide maybe and the issues relating to engagement, there are definitely positive ways we can look at to get teachers and students out of any kind of a rut they might get into. Some very, very interesting phrases that will stay in our minds. You mentioned the digital immigrants, which is us, but we are everyday heroes because we all jumped into the bandwagon when the time came, and we have evolved as teaching professionals. We have learned a whole plethora of tools and apps, and I do hope, like you said, we shall be able to take some of these tools even to the future. It's not a science fiction, it's what's happening every day. We will definitely use the hybrid and the blended models, and we will use the synchronized and the asynchronized ways of teaching. We will explore both of them, and definitely I do believe that we will have to take a deeper look into how we can make assessment more effective, and also how to adapt our teaching learning material for these newer modes of transaction. And I do hope it will work for our learners as well as our teachers. And we as teachers cannot stop being exploratory in nature and innovative in nature. So thank you so much, all of you here, for being here with us, and of course the speakers. It was an excellent session, and I can see that here in the chat box. Everybody is very, very pleased with the session that you have brought to us. Thank you so much, ELTAI, for giving us this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I thank all the speakers for the wonderful session. Definitely, we as teachers, when we are forced, to take up online classes, we have to explore, new ways and new methods in order to make our class more interactive, and so that we can allow the learners to be engaged with the process. So now we come to the end of the day, and let me take this opportunity on behalf of Applied Science, Mathematics and Humanities Department, ELTAI College of Engineering, to express my gratitude to all those who contributed for this event. It has indeed been a learning experience for all of us today. On behalf of our entire team, I thank the organizing committee members and the representatives of ELTAI for giving ELTAI College of Engineering the opportunity to host this event. I also extend my deep gratitude to Mahatma Education Society's ELTAI College of Engineering Management for their support to run this conference. A special thanks to Dr. Sandeep Joshi, Principal of ELTAI College of Engineering, and Dr. Arul Pillai, Head ASMH, for their support and guidance to host this conference. My sincere thanks to the chairpersons for their time and efforts invested in efficiently chairing the sessions. I congratulate for their active participation and enlightening us with various concepts and ideas. Let's have a special recognition to all the amazing participants who remain patient throughout and encourage the morale of the speakers by the gusto and enthusiasm. Last but not the least, a special thanks to the technical team for all the support in conducting the session smoothly. Thank you everyone once again for your active presence. Now let me invite Dr. Hemangi to make some announcements. Over to you, Dr. Hemangi, madam, for the announcements.
Thank you, Malvika, ma'am.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of ELTAI to present to you the day 3 program schedule. I hope everyone has enjoyed today's program, and it was up to the mark and up to the point. And I think all the participants have gained something, food for their brain today. So we will, I would like to share my screen with you. Yes, we'll be meeting on day 3, that is on 27th November. We'll begin at 9:30. The program will begin with the interviews. We'll have the interviews on the topic NEP 2020 Language Education by Dr. Ramanujan Meghanathan, NCERT, New Delhi. The interviewer will be Dr. Uma Shivaraman, formerly of Kendriya Vidyalaya Sangatna and CBSE, New Delhi. We'll also have a second interview on the topic Teaching English in India and Training English Teachers, and of Dr. Srinivasan, Director, GEAR Bangalore. The interviewer will be Ms. Priyanka Bhatkoti, Maxford School, New Delhi. She is the principal of the school. Then after this will be this session, the first session will be from 9:30 to 10:30. The next session will be the plenary session at 10:40, from 10:40 to 11:40. The plenary session will be addressing the needs of the 21st century language learners. Professor Willie Ardian, Renandia, Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, will be the plenary speaker for the day, and it will be chaired by Professor Justin James, University of Technology and Applied Sciences, Oman. Then we'll move on to the parallel sessions of paper presentations at 11:50, which will be continued till 1:20. At 1:20, we'll have a lunch break, that is from 1:30 to 2:15. We'll have a lunch break, and from 2:15, we'll begin the next schedule, the second half, that is the panel discussion. The panel discussion will be Homegrown Innovations in ELT, which will be chaired by Professor Sanjay Arora, National President, ELTAI. The presenters will be Dr. Tikaram Podal, Kathmandu University, Nelta, Nepal, Dr. Ford Abdul Hamid, Indonesia, University of Education, Teflin, Indonesia, Dr. Warid bin Mihad, Director, SIG Programs, Melta, Malaysia. Then we'll move on from 3:20 to 4 p.m. for the teacher awardees. There will be interviews with teacher awardees, where the ELTAI will be proud to felicitate these people. The interviewer will be Dr. Halin Kaur, Krishna Engineering College, Ghaziabad. The President's awardee is Mr. Deepak Joshi, Headmaster, Government School, Bikaner. The second person, the personality, will be Dr. Neeru Tandon, who has received an award for implementation of NEP 2020 of VSSD College, Kanpur. From 4:10 to 5 p.m., we'll be having another session, that is Reports of Action Research, which will be chaired by Professor Z.N. Patil, President, ELTAI, Pune Chapter. The presenters for this session will be Dr. Parveen Sam, SSN College of Engineering, Chennai, Dr. Swati Chikla, Geetam University, Vizag, Dr. Sharmila Azaria, Annamalai College of Education for Women, Thothukudi, Dr. Leena Zadav, College of Engineering, Pune. From 5 to 5:30 p.m., we'll be having parallel poster presentations. And I would like all the participants to please be well versed with the link and the Zoom links to be, you should be prepared and be present at the time for the presentations for the posters. Thank you.
Thank you, participants. We are going to end the meeting for all. Hope to see you on 27th November.